Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to season 2 of Conversations in Pop Culture. And yes, we are part of the NCS Roadshow, and I am brought to you by my friends at Mix Some Printing, the smarter way to print. I know printing your creative project can be confusing and stressful, but Mixum is here to make it easy. From their instant quote calculator that lets you get as many quotes as you want for free, to the 24-hour customer service, Mixum is here to make sure your printing experience runs smoothly from start to finish. You can choose from a range of premium printing options and materials, and the company has also printed so many projects that have actually been spoken about on this very show on Kickstarter, and you probably heard about a bunch of them. And everybody says Mixum is killing it right now, and they offer services in the United States, Canada, Australia, and the UK, and Mixum can print anywhere to reach your audience around the world. So if you're ready to print smarter and not harder, head over to Mixum.com, and listeners of my show can actually drop my name right now, Andrew Davis, in the message tab of a current order to get 5% off. And I know every dollar matters. That is Mixam.com. Type my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab, and you will get a 5% discount off your first order. So without further ado, obviously I have legendary Rusty Gilligan in the house. So welcome, man.
How you doing, man? What's up?
I'm good, and I'm super excited because when I got you and everyone was like, you're getting Rusty on, everybody just says so many nice things about you, and you've done everything in comics.
Well, that's because I paid them. If they didn't get paid, imagine what nasty stuff they'd say.
Well, that works too. Paying people matters, and that's important. I like to pay people who say nice things about me too. So obviously, there's so much to talk about. And one of the things that I sort of want to start with is how you got into comics, because you came in the late 70s and you've done a little bit of everything. And we're going to talk about heavy metal in a second, but I'm super curious how you got into the business.
Well, I consider myself an entertainer. So, because I've done a lot of things, and I still do more than just comics and cards at this point. I do voiceover work, I do acting, I do artwork for films, publicity. I still run campaigns. We do, publishing from my studio. So I consider myself an entertainer. I started out as a child actor in New York. And when we moved to California, I was basically doing interviews. You go on an acting interview, a tryout for the job. So I was on in Hollywood, California. I was on Lankershim Boulevard, and we were doing, what they call cattle calls. 50 kids will show up, and they'll be like, too blonde, too black hair, big nose. You're too short, you're too tall, you're missing a tooth, blah, blah, blah. You, redhead, stay. You, this, stay. So I was one of the lucky ones. I got pulled out. They handed everybody the script, and I went into the hallway to read over and memorize my lines. My mother was with me. And a person started walking down the hall. And I looked up, and I said, "Hey, that's Stan Lee." And it was Stan Lee that was walking down the hallway. Now, I was, young, and, he shook my hand, and he was very nice. I told him I was a big Marvel Comics reader, and I told him, I says, I have artwork that I've done in the car. And my mother went out and got it, and I showed it to him. He was excited, that someone recognized him, I think, and he was playing along because I was a kid, If I was a teenager or like a 40-year-old guy and I'm like fawning all over Stan Lee, I think he would have like called 911. So he looks at my work, and he was really excitable with me, and I thought it was nice. And believe it or not, that one meeting with him set up a whole pattern in my career that I haven't broken. I've been extremely nice to everybody, even if they're crabby to me. I'm always excitable. I always try to have fun. I always try to wear pants, even though I forget sometimes. But I went ahead and I gave him one of the pieces, and he actually signed the back of it, handed me his business card, and said, "Give me a call next week," and on and on and on. So I went in and I did the interview. My mother was excited. She thought that was really nice. And about a week and a half later, I gave him a call, and I actually did some artwork for one of the British Marvels. I did a pinup that was Captain America jumping across in front of like Big Ben. Since then, I did artwork for show flyers. I did artwork for Comics Buyer's Guide magazine. They did some of the for the ads and things. I did stuff for the undergrounds and for the, in those days, you couldn't really call them independent comics, even though I hate that term, but they were like, you know, small press books. I did whatever I could do to get into print somewhere, anywhere, including cartoons for newspapers. So it was just a big fantasy of mine, even though I was doing acting and I was having a great time doing that for many years. That's basically how I got started. It was just a chance meeting, being a reader, and pushing myself.
And so to even talk about that, because obviously, you came in, and then in 1980 and 1981, heavy metal sort of happened. And
Right.
how did you get into heavy metal? Because I love heavy metal.
Oh, I do too.
I'm 28, so I came into heavy metal later, and it's very much a cult classic for me.
Wait a minute. Whoa, wait. Pause this a minute. Pause, okay? You're 28?
Yeah.
My twin sons are older than you?
Yeah.
Oh, totally. Oh, now I can play dad jokes, and oh, that's great. Here I thought, oh, maybe he's like, 35, 40, and he's been around for a long time, and, respect your peers and blah, blah, blah. No, he's 28. You haven't even pulled the wrapper off at 28. You're like mint in box at this point. Okay. So anyway, go ahead. I'm kidding with you. Go ahead.
It's all right. I can take it. I am a big boy. I can step into the arena too. So, but obviously, I came into heavy metal and I just discovered it by chance. And I love heavy metal, and then I read heavy metal magazine all the time now. And so you worked on heavy metal, and how did that come about? Because in a lot of ways, that opened up a whole new career for you and what you've done, and you're still talking about it 40 years later.
Well, it pulls back to acting. It harkens back to my child acting days. I did a Broadway play, and I toured with the company, and we went to California, and that's where I wound up staying and living for about 25 years. So when I had first gotten there, I was doing the play, and an agent discovered me and said, "Would you be interested in doing commercials?" Obviously, my mother and I both jumped at that chance. And when the time came, we signed with this agent. Her name was Mitzi McGregor. God bless her. She was a grandmotherly aunt, crazy aunt type, and she was very cool. So once a month, which was common practice, a lot of younger actors would go visit their agent or their manager for a quick meeting. So we would trek. We lived in Burbank, and it was about 40 minutes to her office. We trekked down there. And she was very nice to me. As a matter of fact, she's the one that gave me the name Rusty. And she was very nice to me. And my mother would be talking to her, and I'd be sitting there, and then she'd lean over, and she's like, "How are you doing?" And I'd be, and I would be excitable, and I'd be like, "Oh, she's talking to me," So I would, as usual, I brought some artwork. I wanted to give you a picture, and picture of a werewolf, and picture of something else, and picture of something else. So she says, I told one of my friends about your artwork, and I was very excited. And she says, "How would you like to work on a movie about a comic book?" And I was, boom, like that was like atomic explosions going off, the whole bit. So at that time, there was no Avengers, Captain America, MCU, DCEU, on and on and on. It was nothing. The best thing I think at the time was the Nicholas Hammond Spider-Man and the live Super Friends every once in a while on ABC, and then, a lot of Scooby-Doo and, whatever on TV. So I was like, oh, awesome. This is like my ticket. Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. So she was talking about heavy metal. And a lot of people don't realize heavy metal wasn't a comic book. It was in comic form. Heavy Metal used to be a magazine in France called Metal Hurlant. And what it meant was it translated to heavy metal. And the way that they talked about heavy metal, it wasn't the music. Like, this isn't AC/DC, Pink Floyd, Metallica, whatever you classify as heavy metal. This was more along the lines of rock hard, solid grit. And, we had Richard Corbin's Den, and we had The Bus, and Salvatore Moreno art. We had huge stuff, Captain Stern, all the stuff from the movie, Tarna, on and on and on. So anyway, long story short, I'll skip over this. We'll talk about it in our fourth hour. No, I'm kidding. Or am I? Anyway, so she introduced me to the people. They were in Canada. So very funny the way things progressed. They didn't realize how old I was. It never came up until like a year or two later, which is funny. And they would call on the phone, and the first thing they would say is they would get on the phone and they'd be like, in French, do you speak French? And I'd be like, no, I only speak English. Hang up. Because you have to understand, back then, it was like $2.99 for the first minute and 99 cents each additional minute plus tax to call. There was no email. There was no internet, no overnight, no cell phone, no overnight shipping. In other words, no cell phone. There was only a few copier machines. There was nothing. So they got back on the phone, very broken English, strong French accent. It'd be like, okay, write this down. Next time, record this call. And they would be going a mile a minute. We want this and we want this and blah, 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 blah. Can you do that? Oh, yeah, I could do that. Good. And then it would like go on and on and on. Click, because it was like that minute. Click. Why spend another 99 cents if they didn't have to? Okay. Got my orders in the mail like 2-3 weeks later, because the mail was, just about as fast as it is today. I did like 50 drawings. And the funny thing was, I took Polaroids of all my drawings because there was no copier. So I would be like, do a drawing, click, do a drawing, click. I had to send all my artwork to them. So it was all put in a large black bag envelope, and we had to drive to Los Angeles International Airport, an hour away, and go to the Delta Airlines hub, and they actually put it on the plane so it would get there like 4 or 5 hours later, whatever it was. That was our overnight express. That was our email, the files. That was our, scan it and ship it type thing. So I got very discouraged because about a week or two later, they didn't approve of any of them except for one. And then I got the feeling that they wanted something else, and they were very nice to keep with me. So I drew a bunch of background stuff. Most of the stuff that I worked on was the B-17 sequence, the Pacific Pearl, where it was like the World War II setting, where the pilot was being chased by the green orb, and then they landed in the pilot graveyard with all the zombies. So... and the funny thing was, when the movie came out, I wasn't old enough to go see it. I actually didn't see the movie or anything for about 3 years, maybe 4 years. And the only way I saw it was because it was on at 1 a.m. on HBO, because HBO, when it first started, HBO wasn't 24 hours a day. HBO started at 7 at night, and it ended at like 3 a.m. So the only way I watched it was I had to watch half of Rocky. I had to watch some stupid thing for a half hour, and then heavy metal came on. And I was like, oh, my God, look, that's that. That's that skull. That's that vine, whatever. But and then I contacted them a couple of like down the line, and I wound up drawing like a bloody Conan looking like curved knife, like a dagger. And they used it on a subscriber card, and I think they used it in the magazine in an ad. And then, I mean, I was not like I was an international sensation, so I didn't really, I didn't have a big connection to them. I was a worker bee, and I was part of the hive, and it was over, But it was a lot of fun. I would say Heavy Metal is probably one of my all-time favorite movies, my top 5 if I was deserted on an island movie. And the soundtrack is probably the best thing I've ever heard. It was a groundbreaker. And then when they did the sequel, they ruined it because the sequel actually had heavy metal music and they didn't understand. It didn't translate well. It's like an editor of mine said one time, how do you explain a chicken nugget to a person who lives in Africa? Or, how do you explain oxygen to someone who lives in space? It just did not translate well. But whatever, I was happy for the work that I did. And it did open up a big door for me because over the years, I've done many films, production art, storyboards, etc.
Mm-hmm. So obviously, what I love about this, and obviously, as I stated, I'm 28 and I came into heavy metal way after it came out. And so it's very, very different for me because I'm part of a generation that realizes that this is something special and that it's very, very cool and the music is great and even just being a part of something that I don't know if it could be done today. And that's the other thing about heavy metal. It's perfect because at the time it was done at the right time, and now with licensing and all the music and all those bands wanting to even be in the same movie together, I don't think that so clearly we've got into a new direction here. Clearly, this is when the show gets canceled. Clearly, we only made it to season 2, guys. We only made it to season 2.
It was that one guest that came on and screwed up everything.
So obviously, though, what is this like that we're still talking about it? Because I agree that the sequel ruined the entire thing. It was just bad.
Heavy metal fit into a pattern that was very interesting at the time. There were movies like Wizards and Heavy Metal. A lot of them. I think heavy metal was heavily influenced, not by the magazine, but I think heavy metal was very heavily influenced by the plays that were on Broadway because they were flash, they were style, the audience was different. Think about it. You have two people, and one person is very big into TV, but television back then is not like television now. Now we sit and we binge watch, and we pick and choose what we stream. We have to pay for services. We own DVDs. Whatever. We do podcasts. We get a part of the industry. Back then, it was like if you didn't show up at 8:00, you missed the beginning of the show, and the rerun was like 6 months later, if at all. And the movie that would be on would be edited, and it would be on late at night or midday, Saturday, Sunday, and that was it. I mean, straight away. The big deal was soap operas, sports, and news. So something like heavy metal did not appeal to the television audience. It was heady. It was exciting. It was more of a theater goers type movie. And if you notice, movies that were around that 10-year time, Jesus Christ Superstar, Hair, they were musicals that appealed to that theater going audience. So when when heavy metal came along, and there were bands like Black Sabbath, Sammy Hagar, Nazareth, Stevie Nicks, it was insane. And you have no idea how many bands said that they wanted to be a part of the soundtrack, just as much as there were actors that wanted to be the Batman 66 series villains, or be a part of television history, like being a guest star on MASH or a game show guest, whatever, celebrity guest. This was a big deal. And when heavy metal came out, it had a lot of actors that were in it from Canada's television, like Second City Television. John Candy was one of them, obviously. This was a big deal. It really was. I think that heavy metal was like the second coming for the television industry. Obviously, the first one was Wizard of Oz, all the way back in the 30s with Judy Garland. When heavy metal hit, it opened the door to everything. Wizard of Oz was supposed to be Dorothy was supposed to be Shirley Temple, and they were going to continue her career. But she was too young for the part, and she didn't quite fit the mold. They wanted her to be older to appeal to a different audience. So when they did that, it opened the door for musicals. And there was musicals on television. There was musicals on the radio. It was insane. When heavy metal came out, it opened the door for animation. And it brought about this I want to say revolution, but it really was, I mean, you could start it with a boom or a belch, but it was a kind of a revolution. It really opened the door for a lot. I think without heavy metal, you wouldn't see the MCU today. That might be kind of a bold statement, but that's how I feel,
Yeah, I agree with a bunch of stuff where I think it also opened up just even bands being on soundtracks and a lot of other stuff as well, because there's a lot of stuff I think it did, and it's still so relevant today with what's going on and everything. And obviously it launched your career because you've done a lot of stuff with storyboarding. And one of the things that obviously happened, and I know we're jumping a little bit, we're jumping 23 years, I think exactly, but you got to do a lot of storyboarding for Spider-Man.
The hard part about looking at like what I do for the what my credits are on IMDb is that I've actually done a lot of stuff in between. I don't know who maintains the IMDb, but there was a lot of stuff up
I'm
there.
the first person to admit I don't know everything.
It's funny. I can't even remember all that I've done because a lot of times I'll work for, let's say, for example, you're a producer and you call up. There's a lot of small productions, first of all. For every big budget movie, there's about 300 small movies, small press movies. So a producer will call me up and he'll say, can you draw a demon? Okay, what do you want? Male, female, tail, look like a devil, look like a kitty cat. What do you want? I need you to draw a demon. I need you to draw an American flag. I need you to draw this, this, and this. And you'll draw like 10 things, and it'll be a part of like 5 different movies. I've drawn artwork that's gone on the walls as props. For one movie, I drew wanted poster faces, and they put the wanted posters all up in the sheriff's office and in the town. I design license plates and badges for some films. Sometimes it's just wardrobe shots. So it wasn't quite 23 years later. It was more like during that time, probably about 20 jobs, and then Spider-Man.
So let's talk a little bit about that, because I think people don't understand that what goes on in movies and TV is that props and building out what's on the wall. I had Tom Rash on, and he did some stuff with Big Bang with Black Alpha, and and I know you've done some stuff for a lot of different licensing products and possibly some Big Bang stuff as well. And so obviously, I don't think people understand when you're doing a movie and everything in somebody's apartment in a particular TV show. That's done by people who are artists and storyboarding and props. And what is that like? Because obviously when you have your thing up there and now millions of people are seeing it and it's not front and center, but it's relevant.
Right.
It must be very cool.
It's funny. Yes, it is. It's great. It's funny. It's like winning an award. That's the way I look at all of the stuff that I do is like, oh my God, I won an award. Oh my God, I just won $100,000. To me, that's the same excitement because I'm very fortunate with my beginnings to be doing anything. My family was very poor. I didn't have a father. We ate meat once a week. It was very hard I lived in a tenement in Brooklyn, New York. It was very hard. And it was just my mother, grandmother, and I. And they always supported me being creative. God bless them. And the whole industry kind of opened up for me at a couple of points in my life. And I was very happy with that. Seeing anything that I do on the screen or in print is a giant joy. Sometimes it could be, I'll do a painting and it'll be on the wall of someone's living room, or I'll design a poster and the print shop at the studio will put it. I don't remember what the name of the show was, but there was a detective show, very popular, like police detective type show on NBC. Now, I used to work at KNBC in Burbank. I wrote some of the news and I did some of the publicity there, and then I also did acting there. So I was there all the time, and I did a picture. And it was just like, I don't know what it was. It was like some guy with his fist up, and it was some boom explosion. It was made to look like it was a movie. And it was just to be hung on some kid's wall. And the cop goes in and talks to the kid. And there it is on the wall. And it's like really cool. It would be like everybody's looking at you right now, but it's that window right behind you that everybody is like, it's right there. And then when it was over, they just probably took the poster and rolled it up, and whether they threw it out or they maybe used it as a prop for something else. One time I drew a picture, and it was of a woman's head, and it was used for something, and totally unrelated in another show. That picture was used on a wanted poster by the FBI. And I wasn't even credited. I didn't get paid for it. They just used the artwork on it. And then somebody like grabs it off the wall and crumples it up and throws it on the ground. And that's what production art is. Sometimes, sometimes you do, like one time I did a special license plate for somebody. I actually drew out like a special license plate with a weird state name. It was a sci-fi type thing. We did a special McDonald's type badge to be on someone's lapel one time. Then sometimes you draw characters for the wardrobe department, and those are better than storyboards because they rely on those heavy for the costuming and the colors, the pacing, on and on and on. Sometimes it can be very rewarding. Other times it's like, draw this one little thing, like as if somebody's opening up the dictionary and there's like this tiny little picture next to the word, because they can't pay for licensing for everything. If a person has a Madonna poster on their wall, or they're talking about Coke or something like that, Coca-Cola, somebody has to pay product placement, or they have to do licensing, or they have to get the rights. Because if a star doesn't like who's in the movie, especially today with all the, cancel culture and Twitter nonsense and on and on and on, if somebody doesn't like a star that's in the movie and their picture is on the wall, they'll go berserk. It's like an endorsement. So a lot of times they'll, if they can't arrange for the rights, they'll have the production artists do stuff. And it can be pretty cool, but seeing it is like winning an award, man. It's like, oh, there it is. That's my claim to fame. I drew that dog, or, that guy's wearing my badge, or holy crap, that license plate, I drove away, Thank God you can pause stuff now, because imagine being in the 80s and 90s and you're like at the television with a camera trying to take a picture, and there's a big flash taking up the picture, and there's that tiny little thing you drew, and then you have to show that to everybody. People are very lucky today. So
And so to even go further, because obviously that's what you've been doing, and then you fast forward into 2004, getting to work on Spider-Man, I think it's 2 and 3, and doing a lot of storyboarding. And I'm going to ask a semi-stupid question, so everybody's going to have to bear with me. But what exactly is storyboarding for those who don't know?
Storyboarding is quite. I'm going to keep my answer short because I just realized that I've been talking a lot, and I apologize.
Oh, please, this is about you. It's about you. It's not about me. Nobody wants to hear about me. It's all about you.
Um, Storyboarding is terribly different than production art. Production art, you may draw a face for a wanted poster. You may draw a candy bar wrapper. You may do like a poster of a movie on a wall, something like that. And storyboarding is where you actually turn the movie into a comic book, and panel by panel, scene by scene, you frame out the way the movie should be. It could be along the lines of the director or the producer or the stars need to see something that happens. Here's a picture of Andrew. He's supposed to, the scene is written to where Andrew runs across. In the middle, he steps on a banana peel, trips, and lands on his butt, and there's a big explosion. So what we do is we draw that frame. We draw, here's Andrew. I'm trying to figure out the camera. It's backwards. Here's Andrew, and we draw an arrow showing the motion that you're going. Then the next one, we show you up in the air, and then we draw an arrow going down to show that you slam, and then boom, the explosion. So those three panels frame that scene. And when the director sees it, it gives him a visual to work from. Storyboarding started way back. I can't even tell you the origins because there's 50 million people that were doing it at once. Disney Studios pretty much, and I can't remember his name. Anyway, Disney Studios and their animators were iWorks. They were doing that kind of animation, and they would plot out and storyboard. They were basically cells pulled, and they would map them out. It started being more like Saturday morning funnies or Sunday morning funnies from the newspapers, the way that they plotted it. So picture something like a Garfield or a Peanuts. Charles Schulz was perfect for storyboarding. That's pretty much what storyboarding is. The pacing of a newspaper strip, but the heart of a comic. And it would describe the scenes and go from there. Tons of people are going to complain and argue about, my description. And it really just depends on each person. That's what I do. I basically look at the scene, think of what the main action is, and plot it like it's a newspaper strip. And then I'll address it like it's a comic book page or a comic book panel, excuse me. And, it's basically the whole thing. Now, animation is different. When you do an animated film and you have storyboards, they'll do things like put all the stuff up on the wall, and they'll have a giant pointer, and they'll be like, in the first panel, he says, "Hi, how you doing?" And then he'll move to the next one, and he'll be like, and someone throws a pie, and then there's an explosion. Boom! And they'll act out the whole thing. The storyboards count on the presentation. Like when I worked in advertising, we would do stuff and it would be a presentation to the client. So the storyboards are very different for animation. It really relies on the person to bring it to life. But you have to bring it to life when it's live action. So, and a lot of times when I do production art, people call it storyboarding, and sometimes it's not.
And then obviously you've done a bunch of amazing storyboarding stuff and worked on awesome projects. Spider-Man 2, which I thoroughly enjoy because I'm a Doc Ock fan. And obviously Spider-Man 3. And then obviously Captain America, First Avenger. I think you've done some work on the Avengers as well. And so what was this like, having to work on these movies and giving frame and
That's great.
work on Marvel? It's the dream, man, right?
I'm going to give you two answers. It was fantastic to work for the films. I didn't get to go to the set. I didn't get to meet anybody. I didn't get to the red carpet. It just like everything else, in the 2000s. You do the work at home, you send the stuff in the email, you eat your chips, you smoke your cigarettes, whatever it is, you complain about the weather, and then all of a sudden the check comes in, you complain about it not being enough, and then boom, it's on the silver screen, and you're like, yeah! But it's a job. Like after the first initial, hey, you got the job, woo! Then you're like 5 minutes into it, and you're like, God, I wish this was over. I can't wait until the next thing comes along. And then the next thing comes along, hey, you got the job, woo! And then you're like, oh, I can't wait until it's over. Oh, I can't. I want to do my. It's like in the 50s and 60s, actually more like the 30s to the 60s, everybody who was working said, I want to write the great American novel. I'm so anxious. I've got this perfect novel in my head. I just can't get it out. I want to write. And then they would be outside mowing their lawn or painting the house or, mixing martinis with the wife, whatever it was, doing their work, their insurance salesman or their car salesman or they're a cop, whatever, and their great American novel is like what's in their heart they want to get out. When you do work and you get to work for like these big studios, it feels like you lose a little bit of yourself to do the work, but you put yourself in the work. So you kind of have to morph yourself a little bit. You have to change yourself a little bit. I have characters that I've created, that I've published, that I've had success with on my own. And then you get to work for these other companies. And even though they might be iconic characters, ones that you've grown up with, it really is just a job. I mean, you're not painting your house, you're painting someone else's house. You paint your house, you're happy with the success, you're so great, you're like, oh my God, my house is green and it looks beautiful. When you're working for someone else, might be the exact same house, it might be green paint the same way, and you're like, God, isn't this ever going to end? I'm so tired of doing this crap. It's just the way it is. Like my son is a chef. He goes to work and he comes home and he's like, Dad, I was just working for like 13 hours straight. Oh, it's terrible. And then he'll like go upstairs, take a shower, come down and make this whole fancy meal for himself. And I'm like, okay, that's good. I get it. You got to eat. But, wouldn't you be tired of making the fancy meal? So the other part of it is, and I'll make this so brief, the other part of it is, back in the 60s and 70s, everybody wanted to work in comics. And the reason for that is because they saw a different kind of entertainment theme arise. There was starting to be a comic shop. There was starting to be comic book shows. Some things were making it to television. During the 60s and before, you would see The Adventures of Superman, the Batman 66 show, Peanuts, Charlie Brown had tons of specials. Scooby-Doo, all the Saturday morning stuff. It opened up a big reality that nobody saw before. Because in the 30s, anybody who started working in comics came from three areas. They either worked in the pulps, they worked in advertising, or they were in the military doing stuff for the USO and doing stuff for the Army, whatever, newspapers. So they were opening, Marvel and DC both opened up shop in the 60s. It really made an impression. But there was always this barrier of professionalism. Is your work good enough? How do you get it seen? There was nothing like today. Again, no overnight, no actually drive door, go into Marvel headquarters. They would go to shops in the hopes of people seeing it. They'd show it to everyone they could. Then fanzines and newsletters started opening up, magazines like Comics Buyer's Guide, on and on and on. So when the internet came along, the barrier of professionalism is gone. Now everybody draws. And it doesn't matter if there's an editor to say, fix that hand, that head looks wobbly, ink it better, on and on and on. The writing it doesn't have to be perfect. Everybody's got a book. Just like I heard a joke the other day. Everybody's got a podcast. Well, everybody's got everybody's got a book. Everybody's got a strip. I know somebody who has a strip where a circle talks to a square, talks to a triangle, and they're jokes, and they're subscribers. So you know what? Everything has an audience, and it's okay. But when I do things for myself, even though I'm the publisher, I'm paying for things, I'm backing it, I'm putting my name on it, I still have someone working over me. Because if you don't keep yourself in check, you're not being as professional, and the quality isn't there as it should be. So now people aren't saying, like they did in the 60s and 70s, oh my God, I have a Batman story that you wouldn't believe. I love Spider-Man. Oh, the Wonder Woman is amazing. Now they're like, I have an idea for my own book, and it's based on, I don't know, a biscuit, and whatever it is, and they just do it. Nobody really, people want to work for Marvel, they want to work for Marvel, but they don't really want to work for Marvel. When I started doing stuff, people were crying out for the work. They were desperate. They were heartfelt. Their intentions were pure. Today, it's like, oh, if I do a Marvel cover, then I can go to a convention and I can sign them for everybody, and I can charge $5, and it's not the same.
I'm so old school because all I want to do is I want to write Teen Titans West.
Right.
All I want to do. That's all I want to do.
Make your own, because I got to tell you, and this is very quick. The companies aren't the companies anymore. Marvel isn't Marvel. DC isn't DC. Image was never Image. I'm not a big fan. Dark Horse is a licensing type company. The IDW and the rest, they're on platforms of their own. But Marvel and DC aren't Marvel and DC anymore. I said this in a magazine interview about 8 years ago. They're costume shops. Whoever fits into the Spider-Man costume is Spider-Man. Whoever fits into the Superman costume is Superman. They don't care. They don't care if you're white, black, Chinese. They don't care if you're straight, LGBT. They don't care if you're a man or a woman. They don't care if you're from the U.S. They don't care if you're from Russia or an alien. I can go on and on and on. Blue, purple, orange. They don't give a damn. It's whatever sells a story. In the pulp days, when they did stuff like that, it made sense because it was virgin territory. But you know what? One shot and it's not virgin anymore. So imagine going from the 30s and 40s to almost 100 years later, and with all of the technology and everything, we still haven't caught up to writing good stories anymore, because I cannot pick up a Marvel or DC book now and be happy. They're 5-minute reads with pinup covers, and they look like they were written by a kindergartner, maybe a third grader. I'm not interested. They're not fun.
So for me, I read a lot of Zenescope, and I know Zenescope covers are cheesecake, but I find that the writing is better than DC and Marvel.
Yeah, but the cheesecake covers appeal to a certain audience. Like if Topps does a baseball card set, they don't expect football collectors to buy it. It's perfect for their audience.
So for me, though, when you open up a Zenescope book, it's not cheesecake inside. It's a very interesting story, and I also read very much digital now, in which I've moved to a comicsology just because it's the cheapest option on the table. For $6, I can go get whatever comic I want and have a huge library to choose from, versus having to go to Barnes & Noble or Amazon and drop like $300 a month the way I read, which I think makes sense because, the cheaper it is, the more I can read. So, but I can't read DC. I can't read Marvel. I could read some stuff from Image, but I'm going way more indie, and I'm also going back to like 1980s DC, 1980s Marvel, and even the early 90s too. Like I like Nightfall by Chuck Dixon, but it's the idea that I'm having a hard time as a reader right now.
Chuck is a great guy, very prolific writer. He made statements with his stuff. Bane was a fantastic addition, in my opinion, the last great addition, but a great addition to Batman's Rogues Gallery. And he's a great guy. He actually did a story that was in a book that I published a couple of years back. But yes,
I'm going to disagree with you on Bane, because I think there's one other contribution he made with Stephen Brown as Robin was a great addition as well.
I was saying the Rogues Gallery. Yeah, but you're right though. Yeah. The thing that's interesting about Marvel and DC, and you were talking about like Zenoscope and a few others, they play to their audiences. You know, it's called preaching to the converted. You pray to your audience, basically. And Zenoscope, the cover, and other companies, I don't want to isolate just them for good or bad. The cover is like a Farrah Fawcett poster on your wall in the 70s, 80s, or it's like a sexy girl poster today. But you open it up and it has substance and it has meat to it, which is great. With Marvel and DC, they made a standard for 40 years, 50 years, where the covers were descriptive. They told the story by looking at it. People were drawn in by getting the book. Spider-Man's there. He's holding a girl. Someone's trying to attack him. Captain America throws his shield, and it's like, "I'll save you, Spider-Man." And it told the story. The banner heads were bold. The colors were bright, even though the interiors were and the stories were strong. It's like watching, for example, on Disney Plus, the What If series that's out now, or Bad Batch. Those feel like you're watching a 2-hour movie and it's only a half hour, because they know how to pace themselves. Marvel and DC lost their pacing. And when it came time to do the books, there's the A cover drawn by what's his name and the B cover drawn by what's her name. Then there's the black and white cover, the color me cover, the sketch cover blank, the foil cover. You know, I just, if I really wanted a book, I just pick it up. I don't give a crap what's on the, which cover it is. I want to read a good book. If it takes me 5 minutes to read a book and it costs me $5, I would rather go buy a box of Twinkies and watch something on TV. I mean, it's not worth my time. It's really not. And I don't feel that they're playing to their audience, which is the other thing I mentioned. Zenoscope having a sexy cover or Image at times, or a few others that are out there. I just did work for Fivefinity, so they have the Cherry book by Larry Wells, and they have the Tritzia book, and on and on and on. Great books. They appeal to more of a mature adult audience. Obviously, the cover is very sexy, but inside there's stories, and it appeals to the cheesecake audience, the girly art audience, the people who like female heroes and sexy action, and on and on and on. When Marvel does a cover, it's a pinup, and I don't feel that the pacing is the same on the inside. The Zenoscope audience knows that they're buying a sexy cover but a good story. So these are comic people. Okay, Topps did this back in the 80s and early 90s with their Comics Greatest World, characters like Ghost and X and on and on and on. But when you look at Marvel seems to want to appeal to the Twitter audience. So they're not really hitting comic book readers, because every time I go to a site that publishes a story about Marvel, all you see in the comments is, "Marvel sucks. I can't believe Marvel's still around. Oh, is that really a book still? What's his name is such a pervert," and on and on and on and on and on. It never stops. And then they talk about appealing to woke and critical, cancel culture, and on and on and on. It never stops. It's all Twitter. But they do all these special moves and all these strange things to attract new audiences. And the first thing that they do is TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. And I don't feel like those are the people that support comics. I don't feel like that's a comic audience. They're not the ones that are buying the book. Look at the Gina Carano problem that happened in The Mandalorian. The people who complained were not Star Wars fans, they were Twitter. They were complaining about what they saw. And I'm not going to get political because it doesn't belong. I think politics doesn't belong in comics. I also believe sex doesn't belong in comics or cursing. But when I look at it and I say to myself, there are people crying for her to come back that are Star Wars fans. There are people on Twitter that just want to bash. And when they bash somebody down far enough, then they turn on each other. You know, the complainers eat their own. So in conclusion, I guess I just feel like all the companies have literally lost their way and they don't know how to get it back. That's why we have so many Crisis, Heroes Reborn, retooling, New 52, new this, new that. And the funny thing is, every time they do it, they copy the stories that they did years ago with a new twist. There's a Secret Wars. There's a Secret Wars 2. There's a Secret Wars. There's Deadpool's Secret Wars.
And all that stuff in the original gets ruined, and it doesn't do well. Look at Civil War. Civil War with Marvel was Marvel's last great run. I feel Civil War was brilliant. And they do Civil War 2, and Civil War 2 made no sense whatsoever.
No, it didn't. The movie was great, though, and I have to say, I've been following the television shows and the movies. Marvel makes great movies, and I think that their television shows are incredibly better since signing with Disney and being in production with Disney. I feel that DC has some really good shows. I can't stand Batwoman. Supergirl, I'm on the fence for. Black Lightning got to be awful. The rest of them are good. Superman and Lois and Stargirl are awesome shows. They're well written, they're fun, they have comic book pacing, and they're canon. And I hate DC movies. Like when I saw Superman versus Batman or Batman versus Superman, whatever the hell it's called, that was one of the worst comic book films I ever saw. I'd rather go back in time and see another David Hasselhoff, Nick Fury movie than to see this one. I'd
rather watch the Michael Keaton Batman stuff because that was great. That was phenomenal.
Comic book pacing. It was a comic book that you watched on film. It wasn't a film about a comic book. Because years ago, directors, writers, and producers knew about the characters that they were writing about. They read runs of comics. They talked to the creators. Today, it's like, hey, you want to direct a movie? Okay, we'll talk money. That ruins it. Then they hand them like 20 graphic novels and like a couple of things and send over like a link to a streaming thing. And they say, this is what you're going to direct. And they go, oh, okay, well, Thor has the hammer. Now, Jane Foster has a hammer. And then he loses his arm. And he writes this whole movie, let's say, and it's not just Thor, it's just an example, writes this whole movie based on some spots here and there. They maybe send him some Jack Kirby stuff. They maybe send him Heroes Reborn. None of it fits together. It's all disjointed. And by the time the movie comes out, this is why the MCU has like slippages in their canon. First, it follows the movie. Then the comic. Then it follows the rebirth. Then it follows the comic again. My ultimate, I don't want to say fantasy because that sounds weird, but my ultimate thought is, imagine if the MCU started with the Fantastic Four. The first movie, Fantastic Four. The second movie, they introduced Spider-Man and maybe an after credit thing with Tony Stark as Iron Man. And then the third one, they start breaking out. And the Fantastic Four becomes like as big as the Avengers. They would have had multiple groups by the time they got to that 20-year period, extra movies. The original Avengers did not have Captain America, Black Widow, and Hawkeye. The original Avengers was Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, Ant-Man, and the Wasp against Loki, who was tricking the Hulk. And it was strong for the 60s. Obviously, the audience needed to be entertained. So when I watch all these films, both companies, TV and film, I look at it as these are Elseworlds or what ifs. And if you can settle yourself back to that, I enjoy it. I do. But I think DC lost a handle on their films. Totally, people can disagree, but I
think DC's bread and butter is shows. Like, I thought Smallville was a great show.
Yes, fantastic.
I also think that DC shows are either, as you said, hit or miss. I think their animation are phenomenal.
They have some good ones. There's been a few clunkers, but they have some good ones. And the animated, the best cartoons I have ever seen always fall into Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, the Justice League cartoon, and Justice League International, which was like a mid-season title replacement.
I mean, one of my favorite things, and I'm obviously significantly younger than you, was Batman Beyond.
Oh, you had to mention the age, huh? Yeah. It's good. Well, I'll see you later. Yeah, Batman Beyond was a big favorite of mine too. Marvel had some good shows that a lot of people don't realize. When they start creating a canon, in whether it's a pocket universe or canon from the comics, and they keep with it and they're faithful, they're capturing the reader's attention, the viewer's attention, the fans' attention. So the Amazing Spider-Man series that was on a couple of years ago was great. Was it The Ultimate Spider-Man? That was great. Avengers Assemble, which I've been watching on Disney Plus again. I thought that was great. Hulk and the Agents of Smash, that was funny, and it worked pretty good. They brought in some new characters. But Marvel has had problems developing its villains, and DC is having problems developing its heroes. And this goes back to the 60s, because in the 60s when these things started, and in the 70s when comics, 70s, 80s when comics were very strong, the hero was the spotlight, and he or she always fought the bad guy. And the bad guy had that backstory, and you plowed into it. So DC was Bruce Wayne. His family was killed in an alleyway. And Superman, he was shot to Earth on a rocket. And Wonder Woman, Paradise Island, and on and on and on. Marvel developed its villains amazing in the comics. Just learning that Dr. Doom had a tiny little scar and wore that mask, and he had that kind of vanity to him to hide his face away, and it made him this mega villain, this monarch of his land, was an amazing trick. Convincing people that the X-Men were mutants and everyone hated them, when there were so many heroes that looked weird and ugly, characters like the Hulk, Ghost Rider, Gargoyle, on and on and on. If you put Cyclops in plain clothes next to Ghost Rider with the flaming head, which one would you be scared of? I mean, it was a fantastic feat for people to know that they really pushed the villain and the hated, like in wrestling we used to say, the heel. They pushed that philosophy. Well, Marvel started with Loki, and they pushed Loki for movies. Then they pushed Thanos for movies. Now I guess they're pushing Kang the Conqueror for movies. But when you look at all of the DC films, the villains are very well thought out because of years of the comic. So the fans kind of come in with a loaded gun. They have ammunition. They know who the Riddler is. They know who the Joker is. They know who whatever. And, Marvel is, I think, starting to scratch that a little bit. Loki got a series, but the Joker has been in a couple of different movies on his own, Suicide Squad, on and on and on and on. Then I heard that DC is developing another villain movie, but I haven't heard which one yet. It's going to be a big blockbuster, like the way the Joker film was, with a big star. So, but the thing is that Marvel has problems developing its villains. they only go for the mega villains. There's no curtain call. There's no encore. They just have to keep building and building and building. We're going to get to Galactus, then we're going to get to God, and then we're going to be screwed because, whatever. But the Sony part did really good with Spider-Man because they had Green Goblin. Then they went a little further with Sandman and Venom. Then they went a little further with the Sinister Six. And they did that same thing in the Spider-Man cartoons. The Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon had fantastic villains. Avengers Assemble, fantastic villains. And Batman the Animated Series, of course, amazing stuff. It's just hard to translate to the screen. It really is.
There's so much to talk about, and obviously even Marvel, Sony, I should say, is bringing Carnage. And
yes,
it's going to be huge, and I know I'm very excited for that movie, and I'm upset that it's not happening in a day from now or like 14 days from now. It's pushed back to October. I'm not happy about that because I want to go see that. It looks awesome.
Right.
But I digress. There's only so much I can do as an individual. So
yeah, we're going to blame it all on you. It's all your fault, damn it. It's because you're 28.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've learned, in so many ways that a lot of things are my fault. So I'm okay with it.
It's all your fault.
So obviously, I want to back out of comics, and I do want to talk about something else that you do, and you were doing it slightly before we came on air, and you work on a lot of trading card sets.
Yes.
And so I am curious how you got into that, because that's a whole different ballgame. I collect Pokemon cards, I collect baseball cards, and I do all sorts of fun stuff in that realm, and I'm expecting a $200 card in the mail next week.
Oh, what kind? Which one?
It's the special delivery bid off from Pokemon that's going on for like 150 to 200, and super excited.
That is awesome. Good for you. I think trading cards are kind of a lost art. What's your address again so I can camp out and steal the mail? Hold on. What is it? I think that trading cards are kind of a lost art. They pushed themselves very hard, they did, because they started doing like the foil cards, and then they started doing, Donruss did the puzzle cards for baseball. There were puzzle backs. I even did a set years ago that had puzzle backs. Sketch cards, which I love, on and on and on. And there's always a gimmick, and I'm guilty of that. I do a lot of gimmick cards in my sets. But being a card collector is like being a stamp collector, a pog collector, a bottle cap collector, whatever it is. People collect thimbles for sewing. It's a stronger appreciation when you buy a comic book. There's a history. There's people involved. There's the staff. You like John Byrne. You don't like someone else. You like Chuck Dixon. You don't like someone else. Whatever. And you got a beautiful cover. People slab them. People hang them up. You got an interesting story on the inside. A huge community of fans to talk to. When you like baseball cards, it's the front and the back, and your appreciation has to be very strong, or your passion of it would wane. Hold on. Sorry about that. I have a fan right on me. It's making me cough. It's very warm here. Anyway, so I've been doing cards for a long time. I started as a splinter of doing artwork and working in comics and films. People started asking me to do cards. So I've worked on card sets for Topps, Upper Deck, Donruss and Fleer back in, when they were around, Leaf, sports cards. I've done cards for everything from adult cards to religious cards, sports, comic books. I worked on a set that was all about cats, whatever. I worked on a set that was based on tattoos. It was just pictures of people's arms and legs. It's a very unusual hobby that I think is a lot of fun. make a lot of trading cards to when I go to shows and I give them away as promos, as well as the fact that I publish, my own. I just got done doing a campaign on Indiegogo for my latest set, which is a dinosaur trading card set called The Earth Trembles. And I pushed it really hard. I designed it very well. I gave it a lot of background and a lot of special cards. There's 2 cards that have never been done before in the set, like types of cards, gimmicks, in other words. But, the fans deserve. And it went 610% over the final amount. And I was very happy about that. Same thing for my Wizard of Oz card set and my Pulp magazine set. They were pretty successful too. So my sons used to collect Pokemon cards and Magic, and I think those are great. The gaming is great, really great. One of my good friends does a lot of work in the RPG area and has done a lot of cards. So it's great. I'm glad that you collect.
So for me, it's twofold, because obviously I'm collecting and I enjoy this stuff, but then also this furthers the hobby because they maintain value. And so whenever I want something new, you collect certain cards and then you let them go, but then you get to continue your hobby, and it's very, very cool. And it's also the idea that there's so much money now involved, and there's so many high-profile individuals. A guy named Gary Vee, he was doing a guest no key lecture as part of, and he thought somebody pulled out a rookie card of a very, very, prominent football player in a box set that would have been worth $10,000 to $15,000. And it got really exciting because it's crazy. So that's also why I like it, is that some of this stuff is awesome. I mean, I'm expecting a $200 card in the mail on September 2nd. It's 2 days away. And I'm going to go get it graded and slabbed because I deserve it, but I'm not selling it. I want it because it's awesome.
I tell people all the time, your personal collection is your personal collection. A lot of times what happens is you get some insane trading cards and, of any kind. Don't let them go. It's great to share with people. It's great to do work with people and say, oh, this is a fantastic card, and this is this, and I did this work and I did this work, or this is something that I collect. It's worth thousands of dollars. It's worth this. You know what? Keep them. People have been doing this in the past 10 years. They get a card and they're like, oh my God, this is great. And it's worth like thousands of dollars. And then the first thing that they do is $signs and they go and sell it. Because it's worth a lot, it falls on you to keep it in nice condition. It falls on you to protect a piece of your history. It falls on you to protect a piece of our history. The reason that cards go up in value is because of their rarity. If there's only 5 cards made, well, that means that you and 4 other people on the planet own one. You're like the caretaker of this amazing card. You might see $signs in your eyes, but you know what? Sometimes it's not worth as much. Whatever. I know people who literally buy expensive books, cards, toys, which is also another big hobby, and they like the notoriety of being one of the people that own it more than they want to say, oh, it's worth $10,000, or I just bought it for $5 and I'm going to flip it for $50, that kind of thing. So you got a $200 card coming in the mail. I don't think you're going to flip it for $400 anytime soon. Be the caretaker.
It's right now on eBay for $200, and my goal is to hold on to it for 10 to 15 years.
Right.
And actually go get it graded and preserved it with a bunch of other really cool cards I have in Pokemon. And the idea is that I want to build a collection, and then if I have kids, maybe this will pay for their college, which I think is a really good use of how it's utilized.
Right.
Something else, because at some point I am just a caretaker of the item, but I want to be a caretaker for at least 10 years on myself.
Sure.
Because I look at it and it looks awesome. It's a Charizard holding a beetle with like a male Pokemon flying. It's just awesome. It's an awesome looking card.
It's great.
It makes me smile. That's what it does. It sounds so corny what I just said,
No, not at all. Not at all. Because you know what it is? There's a passion that comes from being a fan, just as much as there's a passion that comes from being a creator. Okay, you create the next Deadpool and you're passionate about it. You're trying to get your character out, market it, movies, TV, toys, anything that you can get your hands on. You're a collector and you're a fan. You like Deadpool. You go out and buy the comics, the toys. You see the movie. You wear the shirts all the time. You're either the guy that paints the billboard or you're the guy that looks up at the billboard. It's one or the other. And if you have a passion for something, both are honorable and admirable. So I think that's cool. I'm glad that you found something that you really like and that you have a plan for it. Because in the 90s and in the early 2000s, there was a lot of speculation in comics. People were buying 20 copies of the Death of Superman or the Wedding issue and holding on to them. And today they're in the dollar bin. And people are like,
I have a story. Do you know who Matt Hawkins is?
Of course.
So Matt Hawkins is on my other show, and we were talking about this, and he said during the image boom and like the top cap boom, he was just looking at his old Social Security statements, and he's like, can we just go back to those times? Because the amount of money I was required to put into Social Security and pay has been like the highest he's ever done for like 3 or 4 years. And he's like, can we just go back to those days? Because everybody was making a killing in those days because of speculation. And so it's a crazy, crazy world. But, you know, obviously I spec on comics too. But there's, again, personal books. There's books that I sell. And I think it's perfectly fine as a hobbyist to also do that. But it's crazy what's going on.
Would you like to see some of the cards that I drew?
Oh, absolutely. We want to see that because I want to talk about your Kickstarter or your Indiegogo, I should say.
All right, hold on a second. I'm trying to share the screen with you. This is these are some of the cards that I drew for Topps Baseball. Let me see if I think I can. Let's see. I think I can manipulate it a little bit. There we go. See if I can get it just a little bit bigger. I'm sorry, I'm messing around with the screen. I'm terrible at
this. It's all good. It's all good.
But these are some of the cards that I did. The reason I did them like this is because I feel when I do sports art, I don't really do colors very well. So what I do is let's take a picture. Let's see, those are sideways. That stinks. All right. Well, anyway, let's take the top left one. What I'll do is I'll draw the character out and I'll ink it. That's the comic book side of me. Then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll make a copy of it on my scanner. I take my X-Acto blade and I'll cut the actual character out of the sheet that I copied. I'll lay it down and I'll weigh it down with like quarters and nickels. And then what I do is I take an airbrush and I spray over it. When I peel back the paper, you can see the way that the background looks. It has kind of a foggy color background. And I'll go ahead and I'll draw the lines on it to give it more of an Art Deco type of look. I'll show you another one real quick. And then I won't bore anybody, but I'll show you another one real quick here. Oh, there's Jay Moore's.
That's a great response.
Jay is a fantastic comic book and fantasy artist that also does sketch cards, a dear friend of mine and a super pro. He has a book series called Eden Tales. He has worked for Dynamite Comics and for a number of other companies, and he's working on a game right now. He is definitely someone to watch right now. His work is amazing. He would be a great guest for you sometime.
I need guests, so anytime. You know, I'm not that hard to find everybody.
Now that they know you had a bum like me on, then nobody's going to show up. See that I did the same type of thing with these. These are 3 different cards. What I did was I cut out the picture on the first one, and I laid a stencil on the back, and I sprayed it over to give it that look. On the second one, I sprayed the edges only and with the team color, and I did a heavy spray, and then I outlined it and put little pock marks on it. And then in the third one, which is a die cut card, I went ahead and did a little bit of the opposite. I sprayed it in reverse and then did the artwork over it. And all of those are watercolor. My favorite type of cards are anything to do with retro or anything to do with like vintage players. Who knows if any of the new players are going to be something, especially with all the nonsense that goes on. Oh my God, this guy said something on Twitter. We have to get rid of this guy, so his $200 card goes down to like, $1, and here you are stuck with like 8 of them.
I'll give you a great example: Barry Bonds.
Right.
My dad is a big baseball card collector. I am more in Pokemon and Magic, and he has a Derek Jeter card. That card is only going up. But his Barry Bonds cards are a disaster.
Derek Jeter, great guy in person, really nice, fresh attitude. Definitely someone that you can look up to when you talk about baseball because of his heart. When you talk about other baseball players, certain players, I won't say who, certain football players, it makes you almost look down at the sport and regret that you're a fan, whether they're good or not on the field. So it really depends on the person. It does. I'll show you one last picture, and then I won't bore you anymore.
Oh, no. This is. I love talking about this.
These are cards that I did for Walking Dead. I love working on this. Topps hired me for these. These are all characters from the show. That's my favorite card in the center, the tiger. Anything to do with cats, that's my big deal. I love that.
I was so upset when that happened.
Oh, yeah.
I was devastated.
But what I did was I take the tiger card there. What I did was I drew I drew right on the card. These are all watercolors. I've been using alcohol markers lately, but these watercolors. So I completely watercolored the whole thing. Then what I did was I made myself a stencil, and I didn't break the border around the edge. I cut out with a razor the copy of the tiger, weighed it down with quarters, and then I sprayed it to give it that look. And if you notice, some of the other cards are the same. I blew it up a little bit. They have that same look to them with the spray. I kind of like the way it looks. This one came out super nice. I kind of like the way it looks because it sets a counter mood. It could be, hey, this guy is disgusting because he's a rotting corpse, so let's make the background look like it's rotting. And then, you've got the tiger. He's orange and yellow, and let's counter it with autumn colors. It makes him bright. It makes him pop, that kind of thing. These here were before the colors on them. But I enjoy doing celebrity stuff and retro stuff. I've been doing cards for Artists Assemble, which is the back to retro cards. We do a lot of the celebrity and pop culture things. I'm actually working on one now for Bianca Thompson, who's actually a big artist herself. I have card sets for about maybe 30 or 40 companies.
And so let's talk about this, because I know you've done other interviews and I've listened to some other interviews, but you have
So in other words, you're spoiled now. Now you're going to get to the nitty gritty, huh? No, I'm not wearing pants right now, and that's all you're going to get. I'm sorry. I won't give you my private life.
But one of the things that I think is so interesting is that you have a very interesting take on stretch goals and adding to card sets and rewarding, the fans for backing sets that you have done, but also protecting the retailer who gets to retail. and things like that, and sort of finding the happy balance, because it's a little bit tricky in card collecting because you have to balance both sides to it. So what is that like for you when you're creating and figuring that out? Because it is sort of a weird situation.
Yeah. I think when people do, okay, I can only speak for campaigns because I don't do work with Diamond anymore. I was in Diamond's second ever catalog many years ago. I was actually supposed to be in there first, but I missed the deadline, so I got in the second one. And I used to be with all the other distributors. You're too young, but there used to be 5 major distributors. It was Diamond Capital, Heroes World, Friendly Franks, and then there was Styx in Canada. And then Ron Haas, I don't know if he's still around, used to own Comics Hawaii, which was a small distributor, but they always had some numbers. But anyway, those were the Family 5, they used to call them. We would send copies of the book. We would send them information. We would take out the ads. We would help promote and push, stuff a card here, put a postcard there, whatever. Diamond's numbers got to be terrible. I sell to Diamond for 2. They sell to someone for 5. Then the store has to sell to 10 or whatever it is to make a profit. I was a collector. And a lot of people, I think, forget that there are collectors. Again, going back to what we were saying, dollar signs and clouded views. I think that people forget that they were a collector. Let me tell you a mini story. I went to a comic book show, and when I mean comic book show, I mean boxes of comics. There were no toys. There were no posters. People would joke and make fun of people that had like an action figure or a toy, on and on and on. That's how long ago it was. So I was at the Inn at the Park Hotel in Anaheim, California, and there was a costume contest. A girl dressed up as Red Sonja, and she won the costume contest, and then by accident, when they were handing her the trophy, she fell in the pool, which was the funniest thing ever, because it was outside in the courtyard. So we were there. I maybe had $10. I came out with a giant sack filled with comics because there was a nickel bin, a dime bin, comics were a quarter, on and on and on. I came out with a great deal. And a couple of the dealers were like, you know, hey, I just got this book in. Here's my card. If you like it, come back to me. And would give you a couple of things. Not like today. And I'm not knocking today. Business is business. You have to flow with, you have to flow with the tide. So people, I think, forget that they were collectors. Every quarter book was quality. Every quarter book had a major damn cover, great artists, descriptive. The stories were intricate, and they made you happy. You were entertained most of the time. There was a lot of picky people. I'm very easy to entertain, so you could fart and I'll laugh forever. And it's just the way, comics were. They were entertaining. When you walked into a comic book store, it was like you were walking into a museum, and it was fun. Now, I like doing card sets and comics, and I like working directly with the fans. People actually contact me and ask me. I can't tell you how many times somebody has come on and said, in a Facebook chat and said, so tell me about your set. I mean, you drag. You're like, oh, God, I got to tell them about this again. 50 times today I've done this, blah, 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 blah. No, there's an enthusiasm. And I tell them, well, it's the new one. It's a dinosaur set, and it's all about Dinosaur Exhibits. We were going to do art, but then blah, 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 blah. I won't bore you. And it makes it go to the point where talking directly to the fans, it doesn't eliminate the middleman. It makes you appreciate the fan more. If the end result is getting across the finish line, rather than worry about how fast you get there, worry about the journey until you get there. Because my campaign went, in the beginning, Jay could tell you, and a number of others that I'm friends with, I was worried that my campaign was crap. And then all of a sudden, one day, things started happening, things started hitting, and it went 610% over. Now I'm ecstatic that, oh, my God, it did great. But in the beginning, I was like, oh, shit. All right.
And your set's super interesting.
I appreciate that. I try to make something that the fans will get and have fun with.
Because I'm going to be 100% honest. I love dinosaurs.
Right.
One of
I
my favorite books is by this woman named Emily So, and Emily did a silent dinosaur book, and it's these three little baby dinosaurs and her mom, and there's no language, and it's all visual. It's a brilliant comic,
Yeah.
adorably cute, and she's on my show, and very, very cool, and I just got to get her to see what she's done with it, because it's been a little bit of time since. But what you've done with your set is we have teeth covers, not covers, cards. We have fossils. We have sketch cards. We have some
Right.
photo replication stuff, which is awesome, which I think is in some, I'm not sure where that was all taken and those photos were taken. And you got some rare, like, fun artistic twists and stuff.
Well, I'll tell you,
really building all this up.
this set, like Jay said in the chat there, it is, you have to be slow and steady with the stuff that you do. Because and I forget that, I have so much passion for the work that I do. I actually told Jay today, I shared a picture with him of a card that I did, and I said, wow, I think I'm losing it. My art looks like crap on this card. And he bolstered and said something really nice, and it was very appreciated. I think publishers get into that niche and they say, oh, I guess it's not doing very well, or, oh, I wish I could push it. I start from the beginning trying to come up with a great idea and mold something around that. This card set was about 2 years in the making. Originally, the cards were based on dinosaurs. So Jay and other artists can tell you, I was talking to them and using them as a sounding board, and I would say, I wonder if we could draw dinosaurs. I wonder if we can get paintings, blah, 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 blah. Then I started saying, oh, I wonder if we could do this. I wonder if we could do this. Nothing came up. It all was the same. Upper Deck did a set, Tops did a set, someone else did a set. There's dinosaurs coming out of dinosaur ears. So I thought to myself, oh, okay, I got to do something different. These are dinosaur exhibits from all over the world. China, United States, a number of others. They're fantastic. Brazil, all over South America. They're beautiful outdoor exhibits. They're not always going to be factually correct. Some people just draw a T-Rex, not realizing there were other dinosaurs that look like a T-Rex that aren't. In other words, it's like classifying, saying every cat looks the same, every bird looks the same, So these are exhibits, and there's stories, there's fun facts, there's jokes, on and on and on, trivia on the back of the cards. To match, what not exactly what's on the front, but the mood. We did the laser etched wooden cards. There's 10 of them, only 10. Like I said before, if there's only 10, you and 9 other people are the caretakers of this one item. I did the artwork, and the laser artist did the 10 cards. Only they're numbered 1 to 10. The laser artist signed them. I signed them. And then when I got them, I did the reverse. Here's the dinosaur picture, and I cut out the dinosaur picture on the opposite way so that there was a hole in the middle. I laid it down on top of each one, and I sprayed it. So each one is a different color. Not just that there's 10 cards, but there's 10 different colors too. So the color combinations are different. We did the stickers. We did 2 different kinds of stickers, one that people could color or use markers or whatever. And the idea is to make something that you collect, but you enjoy collecting. So if you're a card collector and you get like a foil variant, or you get a whatever, that's good. And then you get a card that, like our sketch card, like opens up. It looks like a dinosaur, biting. And actually, Jay Moore's there drew the dinosaur on there. Everybody got those sketch cards, all the artists, and they did the artwork on them. That's unusual. Nobody's done that. The wooden card, nobody's done that. The relic cards, people have done various relics over the years, but there's actually a megalodon tooth on 100 or so, and the rest of the sets have stamps, dinosaur and fossil stamps from all over the world. There's China, Russia, USA, Iran is another one, Vietnam. There's like 50 different countries where we've gotten stamps. It took a year to collect the stamps and do these cards. And they all have, on the back of them, they all have certificate of authenticity information. So the idea was to make it more collectible before I put it in someone's hands. My only interest is like going back to comics. The cover has to be great. The interior has to be steady. There has to be good artwork. There has to be good names behind it. It has to keep in theme with the set name. It has to have meat. You know, it can't be a wish sandwich. You got two pieces of bread and you wish there was something in the middle. And I follow by that, you know.
And then what I like is that this stuff is relatively affordable, and that's the other thing too, where at a certain point, and I'm more on Kickstarter than I am on Indiegogo, but it's the idea that at a certain price point I get priced out, and I haven't seen too many cards on Kickstarter, but with certain projects and things going on, I get priced out real quick. I mean, after something hits $30 or $40, if it's not a graphic novel that has 140 pages, I'm priced out because I'm not going to go drop more than $20 on a comic variant.
Right. I did my symbol comic book, which is a patriotic hero. It was on Indiegogo. It went 400 and something % over. It was a 64-page comic. It was all stories reprinted from all the years because it was originally a character I created for Marvel. It wasn't used, and I took the ownership back. So I printed it in backstories and anthologies with others. So this was a brand new cover, all these stories, and then a brand new 20-page story in it. We kept it at $8. And when you got it, it also came with cards and it came with signed stuff, and everyone came with sketches, on and on and on. There were levels. With the dinosaur set, we have a prototype card, an actual hand-cut, handmade card to show like the sketch card that opens up and bites and whatever. We only had one. It was one of one. Usually these things are either put in a frame by the owner or they get thrown in the trash or pushed to the side. I made it a reward, and I told the person I would actually do a sketch on the prototype. So in all honesty, that's like a $500 card. But like I said before, with the quarter bins, you know, you have to have a passion for being a collector. And I appreciate the fact that if you got $10, I would be just as happy if you spent all 10 with me as if you spent 5 with me and then went on and had $5 in your pocket to go somewhere else with. Because that's what collectors do. They look for, you know, they go through all the listings of the Superman comic on eBay to find the one that matches, you know, their price, how long it's going to take to be shipped. Everybody's looking for a deal. Everybody wants the $5 comic book that's really worth 300, you know, that kind of thing. So I really like putting, you know, I like putting affordability into the comic. It's just as important as if I put another card or a special cover on the set. That's just the way I feel. I don't know. It's not all about money with me. It should be, but because of the way the industry is. But I just can't bring myself to be the guy that nickel and dimes the kid.
So I'm very much the same way in which that I flip comics, and I try to be as reasonably human as possible with deals, where I'm not looking to hit a home run. I try to be relatively cheap, but I also would like to eat too. And so it's finding a happy bid model because I'm a collector and I know what it means. And when somebody wants something, and so obviously if I have a book that's a hot book and somebody's asking $300 for it, but I paid $25 for it 3 or 4 years ago, I try to sell it for $50 to $60 less because it's the idea that I get it. and not every collector can, afford certain things. And my goal is to make a little bit of money on what I'm doing.
Well, one of the things that we did was with our trading card sets, usually you get the trading card set 1 to 20, let's say, and then somebody will do a sketch card and it'll be extra. Like it might be number A1 or number X or whatever. I have seen people buy a trading card set, 9-card set, let's say. They get the sketch card. It's a big star. They go up online, sell the card for a ton, then go look for some other guy who has a cheap sketch card from the same set, buy that. Basically, they got their card set for free. They still have a sketch card to represent that, and they have their whole set. Well, what I did was I made the sketch card and the relic card part of the set. So in other words, the number 9 card is the sketch card. The number 11 card is the relic card. Every set that you get is unique. You can't break up your set. You can't sell your sketch card. You can't sell your relic card. Every set is unique. And by doing that, I think it pushes the energy and the creativity more. Everybody, think about it. If you buy a card set, maybe your dinosaur card is one that Jay Moore's painted. Maybe it's one of the ones that I drew. Maybe it's one of the ones that Bianca Thompson did, or on and on and on. And the next guy, the guy right next to you, gets another one, and his number 9 sketch card is something different. If you want to trade or whatever, that's up to you. But every card set is different. Then 2 cards, 3 cards later, maybe you're the one that got the stamp from Romania. Maybe you're the one that got the megalodon tooth. Maybe your card is special and you have a tooth and a stamp at the same time. It's that kind of thing. And I think it pushes the collectivity because I shouldn't say collectivity, the collectability, because maybe somebody wants a set with the tooth, but they got the stamp. So they might buy more. Or they may be enthusiastic and reach out to other people to trade. I got this, on and on and on. Or maybe they'll post on blowoutforums.com and say, oh, I got this. This was my pull, or make a video for YouTube. And then pretty soon, you create your own creative, furor when it comes to that. You're the volcanoes, spewing out these great ideas and all this energy for everybody to enjoy.
Or somebody might be a stamp collector and they say, hey, I just want the stamps. I don't care anything else because the stamps are for me, or something. A stamp show, for instance, and they're awesome. That's all I want. And
I had a grandfather come to me and say he's buying the card set, opening it up and looking at it and putting it away because his grandson was just born like a week before, and he wants to give it to him like on his 16th birthday. The grandfather is a huge dinosaur enthusiast, and he wants to share it with his grandson. So this card set will be a time capsule for 16 years or whenever he decides to give it to him. That's great. Some of these cards are signed by artists. The sketch cards are signed by the artists. The wooden cards are signed. Some of the stickers. I also did something that was cool. I did a postcard. People buy the postcard with my art on it. I sign it in gold foil or silver foil, and it gets addressed right to the person and put in the mailbox. So they're actually getting a dinosaur postcard personally addressed to them with a message.
I'm probably the best person to talk to that. My mom wrote a book about postcards that was published by a publisher. So
another great collectible too. I just got a Lone Ranger postcard from the 1940s the other day in the mail. I was excited as hell. It's one color. It's all blue, like a blue tint type, but it's gorgeous. I like retro. I'm a very retro person. I have retro toys, retro comics, retro cards. I'm not limited to one hobby or theme. So I'm very much into the retro. And So when I see something that's old, I think to myself, wow, that's a survivor, because it just as easily could have wound up in the fireplace, chewed up by a dog, or mom could have thrown it away when she thought you were too old for it. I still have Monopoly in operation from like 30, 40 years ago. I have a Joker toy that used to hang in my crib, hanging on the wall here. I've got metal toys, unbendable metal toys of Thor and Spider-Man and the Hulk. You know, it's a passion. That's why I try to make the stuff that I do as cool as I can, because I want people to be able to appreciate them. Ooh and ah are the biggest factors when you do something. If you make a movie and someone's ooh and ah at the movie and they love it, that's a success. Even if it's the only guy in the theater that makes the ooh and ah, that's a success. So that's what I do with the cards. My Wizard of Oz set. So many people called me and told me how great it was. I still get people asking for it, but what I told them was I'm not a warehouse, I'm not a store. Once the card set is out, 6 months after the campaign is over, I don't have any more. What I do is I take extra stuff that didn't get ordered. I take extra items that didn't get picked up as a reward. I throw them randomly in the envelopes and just ship them out. And whatever's left over gets sent to somebody to handle, and I'm out of it. So if anybody wants a dinosaur set, they don't pick it up in the next week or two, it's gone and I don't have anything. It's just the way it is. I think being also a limited collectible is also something that shares a little bit of energy with the fans.
We're starting to see that. So one of the things that I'm in is that I don't deal on eBay with books that have 40,000 copies. It's very rare that I will deal with that. I want to deal with a book that has 250 copies printed.
Right.
Because the reason why is that I own some of this stuff because it's my collection. And I feel great that I own a 100 print run or a 250 print run.
It's a rarity.
And then also, I find that it maintains its value and it's a store of value because at some point, because I'm a collector, at some point this will get sold. But I'm not looking to sell it tomorrow or 15 years down the road. I want this to maintain value. Even if it loses 10%, if it was a 40,000 print book or a 100,000 print book, it would lose more than 10%.
And who knows, Andrew? One day when you grow up, it might be worth a lot of money.
But the whole point is that I think when also something is limited, I think it also says to people saying, okay, I get it that I need to pick this up now and that it's not here forever and that this is almost an exclusive club. Right. Yeah, I think that's another thing too. When I'm picking up this special card, I don't know exactly how many are out there, but it was a one-day event that you could get it on. And so everybody who wanted the card got it on this day, and we're all part of a club. Now, I don't know. I know maybe one or two other people in the community who have this card personally, but it's the idea that we're part of a club where we got it, and I was freaking out that I didn't think I was going to get it. And when I got it, oh my God, my stress level dropped tremendously. And so it's this idea, though, I think that's the other thing with this that's very cool, is that it's a club that's being established.
Right. And you know what? The other thing about rarity is, which I kind of appreciate, you can't really say anything about, like your comment before about 40,000 copies. It's hard to say anything about business. Everybody wants to be the next Marvel. Everybody wants to be the next whatever. If I published my dinosaur set and I got 40,000 orders, I would fulfill the 40,000 orders. The reason I cap off a lot of my card sets at 500 is because I like them to be rare and collectible. But when I did my Symbol comic book, I didn't cap it off to 500. And when I did my Mac and Trouble books, I didn't cap them off to 500. So it really depends. To be honest, we're a capitalistic society. We want our oil to be richer, our trees to grow bigger, our cars to go faster, and we want to make the most money we can for every project we do. It's just the way it is. So I would have loved 40,000 orders, but like I said, it's a rarity. I also, like I said, I find that pushes the energy level of the set. It's just as much a feature as if the photos and the art are beautiful. The backs are written great. There's a wooden card. There's a see-through card. There's something else. Scratch and sniff, whatever it is, whatever the gimmick is, it pushes the energy level. And I think dealing with the fans directly, I have a disclaimer at the bottom of my Dinosaur campaign telling people why we go direct to them. And I think that that's important. I really do. A lot of the people just do campaigns because they need funding to do the project. And I think as a mission statement, people should be saying, we do this so that we can deal directly with you. We like dealing with you directly. We like the idea that we're cutting out a middleman. But at the same token, I also have a secret link in all of my campaigns for dealers to buy them at a wholesale price so that they can fairly sell them retail to anybody that they want. And I got some nice orders from retailers and resellers who were very interested in, secondhand sales. And I have to treat them like they're fans because it's important to regrow the industry. For every tree you chop down, you have to plant one more. So that's more than a philosophy when it comes to, doing limited sets and whatever. I think those guys like it.
I feel the same way with my show. I have a sponsor, and my sponsor is allowing me to go directly to consumers where I can go on radio. I can go and somebody can go buy my show. It's been discussed, and I have no desire because I can't be as free in my speech and how I want to do an interview. Most people on the show are chosen. They're not able to be on.
Yeah, but does your sponsor know that you're up this late, Andrew?
Not yet, but my mom does. But it's the idea that my sponsor also allows me to have complete freedom, and they know that I choose my guests, and that's the other thing too, where I am not beholden to anybody as far as who I want to interview, and I like to give people who deserve opportunities a position because a lot of people in the indie comic world don't get it, and that's a commitment that was made in March of 2020 where my other show deals with more mainstream, and this show rarely deals with mainstream because those people need opportunity. And there's a reason why that if I was to go more mainstream, I guess corporate, it couldn't work that way. I would need to do, more mainstream people to satisfy who was handling it. And it's very, very important, I think, that people understand that. And so I completely get why cutting out the middleman works, and it's beneficial. You have a lot more freedom, and you can deliver a better product in a lot of ways.
Right. I'll tell you, it's the quantity versus quality effect. I've done hundreds of trading card and comic book shows. I've always been a guest. They asked me to appear. I would go fly, drive, whatever. Appear at a table, sign my DVDs or sign books, sell my artwork or my prints, on and on and on. So I've been having a lot of health problems, and if the virus and the quarantines and all of that didn't put a kibosh on everything, I probably would have stopped anyway. But I did. I'm having too hard of a time. But I have to say, now that the virus came along, everybody is like, oh, I can't wait till shows open up again. But then they show up with masks on and they're 20 feet away from each other, and the shows are weird with the handling. There was recently, I won't say which one because I don't like to finger people, and I don't like negative. Well, because I think negative destroys the industry.
The saying is that when you point the finger at one person, 3 point back at you.
Exactly, and I don't like that reputation, and I hope I never get it. But there was a horror show recently, and they had the star here, and then they had a screen in the middle, and people were standing on the opposite side. So people were going in and they were paying people on Photoshop to take the screen out so it looks like they were standing next to each other. The star was charging like $40 a picture to stand in a screen. And I was looking at it and I'm like, so the star is in the middle. There's a screen on both ends, and the fans come in on both sides, like I'm sorry, the camera, like this. So the camera shifts to get the star and the fan on that side, then shifts to get the star and the fan on that side, and it's like instead of taking the time to take two pictures. And the time it takes for the fan to say hi to the star and maybe get an autograph or something else, it's like, where it would take a minute to 2 minutes, it took like 30 seconds to do both, and they pop them out. It's like in, out, in, out, in, out. And it lost a lot. So these shows now, I won't get political. COVID's a terrible thing.
For me.
It's just they ruined the effect. And I think podcasts, and I think appearing on podcasts and people listening to them and talking on podcasts have basically become the new conventions. And I think this is better than the restrictive.
So I don't know. I'll tell you what happened to me.
Okay.
So I've never been a guest on a show, but I do fan panels, and I love lecturing about everything. Yeah. And so I broke down Attack on Titan and The Walking Dead and Fahrenheit 451 and compared it. I'm big into the golden age of anime, Tezuka. I'm big into, introducing the new modern directors who are leading the new anime charge and things like that. I have an LGBTQ friendly panel, which is really ironic because I'm a straight white guy. But, I've done a lot of research on that, and I've got to interview Howard Cruz, and there's a lot of personal information that's actually firsthand research that's put into it, and I'm very proud of. And so there's all this stuff that I do. And what happened is that I went to a con, and they gave me a ticket, and I'm not even on the thing, and I'm not in the description, I'm not on the website, and nobody knows my panel, and the panel bombed because there was no advertisement, and I'm paying for a hotel. I'm there not as a guest, and I'm doing it because I want to be a part of the con. And then when I brought it up to them, they gave me an attitude.
Let me cut you off for a second. That's another reason why I have a problem with shows. I've never paid for a table ever, period. I won't pay for a table, and I'll tell you why. You're marketing my name. You're marketing that I'm there. People come. I went to a big show in Connecticut. Again, I'm not going to say who. I had a very rough time. The promoter was nasty. I feel like he lied to me and cheated me.
I know who it is.
And it really bothered me. And I put out a lot for myself. I don't ask for gas. If it's within reason, I don't even ask for hotel. Sometimes my wife and I make them into vacations, mini vacations, on and on and on. If you're doing a panel, you're entertaining. You deserve a hotel. You deserve gas money or a per diem, something like that. I really think that a lot of times people look at these shows as sales event, and they don't look at these shows as entertainment. Because when people saw me at shows, I would do things like jump up from the table and shake their hands. I get a lot of horror people because of Walking Dead I worked on. I'll pretend to bite someone's head or bite someone's arm. I would take pictures with them. I would do card tricks. I would do sketches. I would give free items away. I'm very big into animal shelters and charity. So people used to bring me cat food, dog food, whatever, and I had a secret print under the table. And when anybody gave me a donation, I would give them the secret print under the table signed. I used to do their interviews and podcasts live at the table. I did at Wizard. I was a guest at Wizard 7 years in a row. And I did a Walking Dead panel, and then like 10 minutes later, I was on the Marvel Captain America panel, and it was important, but you're entertaining. So when you did that panel, you should have gotten primo treatment. I mean, it's not like you're a big star, but you should have gotten primo treatment.
Worse is that was my 50th panel too. So I've been doing panels for 10 years. And
Yeah.
all I ever wanted was just my name in the program.
Right.
A little
right.
bit of a better front center. That's all I ever wanted.
You deserve that recognition because you were an entertainer there, just as much as if they hired some girl to be Harley Quinn, or just as much as some cosplayer who sits at a table, or just as much as a musician who's wandering around.
And I don't want to get too political, but I mean, this entire show started as a complete response to COVID, when everybody was getting hammered, and indie wrestlers were getting hammered, indie comic creators, and cosplayers who have less than 10,000 followers on Instagram. That's what this show was a response to, because everybody was getting screwed, for lack of a better word. There's a more appropriate word, but Kevin doesn't want me to curse. So I'm being very, very respectful because I'm on Kevin's sort of network at the moment. But it's the idea that I responded, and I had all these people, cosplayers were saying, "Oh, my gig got canceled," and I'm like, I've never been paid at a con. I am working beyond hard. I'm working my tail off, and you guys sort of now know how it feels on the opposite side. Not to brag, but to say, "Hey, maybe you are kinder." Because you now have a canceled gig, and now you're not getting paid, and now everything that you were getting paid for the last 5 years has been taken away, and now you're where we're at. And I don't want to bring people down. I want everybody to rise up. Maybe people have to sometimes come down a little bit and say, "Oh, my situation's a lot better." And when you get back to normal, maybe you ought to bring most of us up a little bit. And I think cons really need to adjust. And I don't know if I'm ever going back to a con, because I've had 2 bad experiences. And then when I ask to be a guest, say, "Hey, look, I'm a local here. When I was in DC, I've done A, B, C, and D. This is my audience. This is my Facebook page. This is my podcast." They give me an attitude. And I'm like, I'm asking for bare minimum. I'm not asking for a hotel. I'm asking for help me out a little bit. Give me a food stipend. Give me something.
Right. Well, you deserve it. If you're if you're entertaining, you deserve it. You really do. Because in all honesty, you're providing a service. But unfortunately, promoters also kind of lost their way, just the same way publishers have. Now shows, I mean, I won't say which again, but I went to, I believe in discretion, but I went to a show one time. They had some guy that was a big YouTube star. Who cares? They had some girl that was Harley Quinn, and she dressed up as Harley Quinn, and then she dressed up as Poison Ivy the next day, and she was a guest, and she had her own table, and she was selling pictures of herself. Who cares? Some of the girls that came in dressed up as Harley Quinn looked better than the guest in the costume. And and I'm sorry, I know that a lot of people down on me for that, body shaming, acting shaming, whatever. If you're going to dress like Harley Quinn, act like it or get out of my way. Because in all honesty, um, a pretty girl with a shapely figure dressed up as Harley Quinn, there's a million of them. Have the laugh, have the lines down, act like it, throw confetti, hit people with a hammer, call people puddin', whatever it is. Be funny. And that's real cosplay, not just costume. And again, it goes back to the Marvel and DC thing. They're costume shops. There have been a couple of people who have been Captain America that don't act Captain America. They're not virtuous. There's a couple of people that are Spider-Man and they lose their. Yeah, I'm just.
People are like that.
I call them trick-or-treaters. When I'm at shows, I'm like, I'm like this to my wife. I'm like, oh look, there's a Spider-Man trick-or-treater coming.
So when we talk about people who lost their way, and I know we're getting into controversial territory, but it's a positive story. So there are some handlers at cons who don't know how to handle their client and don't know how to back off and understand that, something that sometimes, an artist will sketch for free because they understand what's going on. They understand brought them something that's not normal, and that whatever reason they just want to start sketching. And so this happened to me where Dan Jurgen sketched on a book of mine, and his handler knew to back off because the book was getting Stevie feed. And I spoke to Dan the night before at the Library of Congress, and then he asked me, because Friedel was there, who's Terry McGinnis in Batman Beyond, so I'm a huge Batman Beyond fan, and it's a blank cover, and his handler said, "Are you going to get it at Terry's? you're going to get Will Friedel's, autograph. And I'm like, nah, man, I'm not pushing my luck with sketches enough. I'm not going to run with things because I have a feeling it. It says, right here, it takes me behind stage, and Will Friedel signs it. Behind, stops his entire line, and his handler knew how to handle his client and my book. And I think that's also another thing that is also part of the cons is that handlers sometimes need to know their clients a lot better. Dave Finch did a quick Batman stinger on a book. His handler didn't touch anything, and his handler didn't interfere or ask me for any more money after he was getting CGC'd for $10 because he knew not to do it. I think it's a lost art as well. And you look at certain companies, they have women handlers, not because it's business. And if the male audience is a certain, in comics it's mostly men, if you see a female who's having her shirt, and showing her belly and she's fit, well, she's business to somebody. There's a lot of things wrong with comics.
Yeah, well, you know what? We could talk about this for 10 hours. I mean, let's face it, and I hate to say it, but most of it should be off camera because it's not the kind of thing you want to project to fans. But let me just say, like Nixon said, let me say this about that. There are many thoughts behind being a promoter at a comic book show. You either do the show for the fans or you do the show for money. You can't do it for both because I know promoters who do shows and it's all about fans. I will name a name. Sam Chase, who does shows in New York, is a fantastic promoter. He has a couple of different shows, Saratoga Springs. He's got Plattsburgh. He's got a couple of others. He provides things like you buy the VIP experience and you get signed prints and you get special comics and on and on and on. His prices are cheap. He has great guests. He keeps things limited. He does a 2-day show or a 3-day show, whatever. I've had great success at his Plattsburgh show. He's a great guy. Another promoter who I won't mention, $60 to go to the show. He's got a lot of stars, but he's I could say something dirty. He's a jerk, and it projects. Now, a lot of people will say, like I know a big artist, and he'll say, "Oh, I love his shows. His shows are great. I make a lot of money at them." How do you talk to the fans? Did you have good fan rapport? Are you having fun? Well, it's a job, and blah blah blah. That's my first mistake because I obviously I don't do shows for money. If
so
I did,
it goes back to, yeah. So for me, what it goes back to is that there are old school comic people,
right,
and there's the new school. And I feel that some of the new schools understand fan interaction. And I also think, as we do a lot of Zenescope artists, like, yeah, I signed for free, whether it's getting CGC or not, because I just want, because I'm working for Zenescope, and Zenescope is a very fan-centric company.
I have never charged to sign anything. One time I was at a show, someone brought me a heavy metal record album, and in Germany they released a 2-record set where the album cover opened up and there were artwork on the inside from the movie. It's like a $500, maybe $700 album. This guy had me sign the actual album in gold, and I signed the album sleeve itself. And he was pulling out 20s, and I told him, I says, I don't charge to sign, whatever. Another guy brought me a giant, it was like a 7-foot tall bus bench poster of The Walking Dead. I signed it. I drew a skull on it next to my name. I stood with him and his son or daughter, I don't remember. And it was years ago. And took pictures. I pretended to bite their arm, and I was fooling around. They made us. However big we are, they made us.
So I expect to pay for things with, like Dan, for instance, when he was signing and getting CGC, it was $10. That doesn't bother me. It's when we start hitting the $30, $40, $50 mark that it starts bothering me. Obviously, if I'm getting a commission, I expect to pay for it. But then I show up and somebody's a big time artist. They're like, yeah, I'll sign for free. Like Keith Giffen, who did Rocket Raccoon. He's like, I was expecting to pay him, and I'm like, it's maybe $30, no problem. It's on a Campbell book. I don't really mind. He's like, no, I'm not going to charge you. And he looked at me all weird. I'm like, this is odd because I'm expecting you to charge me. And
Right.
he charged me, and I was super thrilled because I was like, this is awesome. And it's a cool book, and I love that book. And then other people haven't charged me, and it's super weird. But I think that it depends on the person. And also, what I find in my life is that the more successful people are, the more they give. And what I'm starting to find is that there's a big division because people want to give back. People like Paul Levitz have been on my show. People like Danny O'Neill, Rusty Gilligan, Howard Cruz. Chuck Dixon's been on, and those people, and Tom DeFalco's another one. All those people want to give back, and I think there's a lot more Marvel artists who are from the old guard when Marvel was Marvel, as you say, who want to give back. It's just a matter of getting in contact with them.
Listen, let me tell you something. Years ago, when I started doing conventions, when I first started, I remember doing the in California. This is long before you were born. I remember doing the Bruce Schwartz did the Los Angeles Comic Book and Science Fiction Convention, Sunset Hyatt House and the Hilton and all these other convention places. The stars used to walk around to the dealers, and they used to autograph stuff for them because one dealer would be from, New Jersey, and another one would be from Maryland, another one would be from Connecticut, and they'd sign stuff and on and on and on. And they would take them with them, and it helped the stores. They would be like, "Oh, I have a Jack Kirby signed Avengers. I have a Cockrum signed X-Men." On and on and on and on. And it was a big deal. That's lost. Stars used to do the same thing. I remember years ago I drew something. I can't remember what it was. And Gene Simmons was at the convention from Kiss. He's a big comic guy, and he signed it. And I was at Wizard a couple of years back, and I worked on the Kiss trading card set, and he signed my cards, and it was a big deal. The fan came back and he was like, "Oh my God, I got your card in the pack." And then Gene Simmons signed it and whatever. And I said, "Let's go back and talk to Gene." And I walked over there, and the three of us were talking, and it was like three beer buddies. It was a big deal. Let me share a screen with you real quick.
Cool.
Okay, here we go. These are pictures of my cat. No, hold on.
And now we're getting it. Yeah, here we go.
These are some of the cards that I did for the Kiss trading card set for Dynamite, and he got one of my Kiss cards, and Gene signed it. It was great. Then we just walked over and just started talking to Gene. "Hi, Gene, how you doing? I'm one of the guests at the other table." Stood up, shook my hand. It was really nice. He said, "Yeah, I just signed this guy's card." And I said, "That's one of my artwork." I said, "You probably don't remember, but years ago I did something else and you signed it." And he's like, "Oh, that's very cool. You did a great job, blah, blah, blah." And we were all talking and having a good time. That's the way it used to be. It was a lot of fun. But these were cards that I did for the set. This is actually my favorite one right here. This one, my favorite card out of the whole set. What I did was I did the same thing that I did, like I told you about before. I cut it out. After I made a copy, I cut it out. I sprayed it, and then I kept making layers of stencils and spraying it, which is why it looked like that. His hair was two-tone. The background was two-tone, and I think it gave it kind of a neat-looking light around, around his head. Same thing with the rest of these. I did the hair two-tone. Really put out for this set. I also did a bunch where it was just the top of their heads, and I think that was a big deal because art director was very complimentary about that. I was happy. When you do good art, you feel it and you know it. But
yeah.
The thing about shows is they went from being fun became business became big business, then it got out of control. For a long time, comic book shows were dying. Pop culture saved it. Pop culture shows were dying. Cosplayers came in and saved it. But then I think cosplayers started ruining it as well. And I don't think it's really their fault, but it's just the nature of the business. It's like if you have a steak restaurant and you offer chicken, that's great. But if you have a steak restaurant and you start offering like candy, it's a little too much diversification. And sometimes it comes back to haunt you. So toys became big. YouTube stars. I went to a show where they had a chef that was on a reality show as a guest. What the hell is he going to sign? A pan? Hey, sign my spatula. It's whatever. I don't fault the person, and I don't fault the promoter, and I don't fault the fan that walks up and pays for it. But the more you strain, the soup, the less it has flavor. And I think that's the thing. I think that a lot of these shows have just lost their flavor.
And also, what's starting to happen is that I have real expertise in comic book investing. And I did this panel only once. And what happened after the panel is that I'm like, hey, guys, I'm going to be around. And me and about 12 people had a 45-minute conversation, much to my father's dismay, who came and was sort of helping me film it. And he was just sitting around waiting. He was sort of not too thrilled with me. But when you have a 45-minute where everybody's just asking questions about this stuff because they want to know more about how to do this research and all the information, and meanwhile the other panel has a big thing, but like these 12 people wanted that interaction, and it was awesome. And it was very weird, and this has only happened like once or twice. Like those 12 people were like, "Yo, I'm a diehard fan," and I think it's something that's very much lacking in the comic community at cons now. There's no really like, I'm here for you guys, and obviously there's a million things, but I don't want to get too controversial. I have an article on my website about where your content goes to and how it's broken down. Everybody can go find that article. It's a very interesting piece. And it's not a negative piece. It's just good to know where your goes to when you buy a ticket.
I was taught a long time ago by an editor, you can write volumes about negative every day. The trick is to write one sentence positive and entertain someone. And I find that I live that life. I won't be negative to anybody. I give everybody 100% respect in the first handshake, and they go down from there rather than going up. Trust is another thing, but in this business, trust is a scary proposition, especially with publishers and promoters. But I'll leave you with this story. I was asked to do a Walking Dead panel. One of the other artists who worked on the Walking Dead magazine was supposed to appear. I won't say what show or what guy because it's rude, but he was supposed to appear and be with me. He didn't even show up. That's his gift to the fans. He sat at his table, signed his stuff, and made his money. And then when it was time for the panel, got up and left. And when people went looking for him, his table was gone. So that's that. So I'm doing the panel by myself. Very popular artist was the moderator for the panel. So I'm doing the panel, and then the promoter was like, well, it's going to be a boring panel, blah, blah, blah. But I decided to do something different. I grabbed 50 horror prints, and I signed them all. And I sat in my panel. And when the panel was over with, I said, today is, I don't know, whatever it was, this is July 1st. Whose birthday is coming up next? And everybody was like, well, mine's, August, mine's whatever. I said, somebody come up and bring up their driver's license and show me when the next birthday is. And the person went ahead and said, my birthday is tomorrow. I handed them an original piece of artwork, and I said, happy birthday. And I said, for every person sitting here, I'm going to give you one of these signed prints. And everybody at the end of the panel made a single file line and came up, and they did it. They came up and I gave them all, signed prints as a memento of the panel. And the promoter was like, oh my God, that must have cost you a ton of money. And I said, no, I have a deal with my printer. She knows I do this. I do it. I said, and on and on and on. That's how I feel. I said, I was fortunate that these people came and saw me rather than I pushed and whatever, and I wasn't looking to make money. I was looking to entertain. It's like when you turn on the television, you don't pay for the television show. The show has its advertisers and you're sponsored to be there. I said, you gave me, free table, hotel, meals. Well, that's my sponsorship for being here. So it's nice to give something back. Every person that was there, I gave them a free print at that panel. I even had a few people walk in for the next panel and stood in line. And I'm like, were you here for this panel? I said, do I have to call security? Are you ripping me off? And I still gave them the print anyway for fun. And I had about 20 people come back to my table. They all wanted to talk. They took pictures with me. I sold a few things, which is very nice. But, it was... you're donating your blood to these people, because I got to say, comics and cards and film work that I do is very important to me. This was my calling, and I hope I pursued it well, but I don't know if I could get away with that today.
So one of the things is that I was very lucky that I fell into podcasting, and it took me 8 years to get a sponsorship. But I am beyond lucky because this show wouldn't have happened without that sponsorship come January.
Right.
I was running out of funding, and when you're doing 180 interviews a year, giving a lot of people who wouldn't normally get press another outlet, and I also actively look for people who need it. There are people who wouldn't get on the show, and their first show was mine. There's been people who are even big stars who their first show was mine. And so it's very important, I feel, to do that. And so I'm very, very fortunate now where I give media spots to people who need it. And look, some people are appreciative and others aren't. But even if it's just one person and I get them 5 backers, I'm thrilled on their Kickstarter or their Indiegogo, because those 5 backers might have pushed them over. And even if it's $5 a piece, $25 goes a long way on Indiegogo and Kickstarter right now.
Right.
And obviously, people have helped me out tremendously too. And the more I give, the more money I make, the more gain I get, and the better off I do because my brand is growing. And so everybody's winning when they're on my show, I feel. And it's very cool. And that's what's happening to me right now. And I want to keep going because right now I'm the
hey, listen, you have a good product. That's the thing. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as someone enjoys it. You're rich. Listen, this is exciting. Tell me when the show starts. I'm ready to go. Tell me when you're going to start taping, buddy. I'm ready.
Clearly. So obviously we've been live, and obviously you're joking on that point, but I don't want to keep you here all night.
Live? This whole time? Come on, don't kid a kidder. You young punks.
So obviously Mac in Trouble, it's very it's about your cats in a lot of ways. And that's out there, and that's your creator owned titles, and it's just an all-age fun book. And obviously, what's it about, and where can people find it before we let you go and go to bed? And I eat ice cream because I'm hungry in like 20 minutes. So
ice cream and balloons and toys because you're a young guy. Mac and Trouble are based on my cats. I was sick for a long time, and I was in bed. And my wife brought in 2 cats, Mac, and then he had a sister. And they were in a big cage, and we were caretaking them. And Mac was walking funny. Mac has a problem with his back legs. He has something called cerebellar hyperplasia. His brain thoughts don't translate very well to his movement, so he walks with a wide gait, and he falls a lot. So I got out of bed. I for some reason, the cat kind of brought me back to life, and I started helping him walk, and I taught him to walk, and I started working with him. And like all cat owners and animal owners do, you make up funny voices for them, and you say funny things, and what if Spot said this, what if Sparky said that. So I was playing around with Mac. Now, a little bit later on, we got Trouble, which is a big handsome brute. And the two of them, I thought they were going to fight, but they met each other and they got nose to nose. Then they turned and just walked towards the food bowl, and they were friends for years. Trouble passed away recently, but Mac is still around. He's my best friend. And it is not a Warner Brothers drop anvils on people's heads and blah, 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 Bugs Bunny type comic. It's actually based on like the Bob Hope and Bing Crosby road pictures, the Groucho Marx old style comedy. It's a sci-fi. This is what if two comic book cats, they knew that they were cartoon cats. What if two cartoon cats came into the real world? And it's very funny. They get mistaken for secret agents, and they go on missions, and they talk to amazing people, and they've had some incredible adventures. It's family entertainment, but it's not. Like, in other words, it's not for kids, but it's family. So it's kind of like saying, hey, you watch an Indiana Jones movie. It's not really a kid's movie, but it's family oriented. I feel like comic books got very mature. Batman naked, talking about sex. This character's raped. Someone's taking drugs. Everything from agenda for one political party, agenda for one whatever racial stuff.
It's also become much more blunt. First thing,
yes, and I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I don't. I will sit and read old Captain Marvels. I'll sit and read Avengers comics from the 70s, the best run, Roy Thomas Avengers in the 70s, Dave Cockrum X-Men when he debuted them. I'll read all of that. I love all of that stuff because comic books are escapism. I don't want all this nonsense. If I did, I'd stop buying comic books. I would go right to CNN and turn on the TV because that's what it is. I've been asked to do, I've never said this on a podcast or an interview before, but I've been asked to do political stuff. I was asked to do anti-Trump stuff. I was asked to do anti-Pelosi stuff. I was asked to do for and against whatever war, LGBT and something else, an agenda, and will you do an article on this person and on and on and on. I say no. Whether I believe in it or not, whether I hate it or not, no. Whatever's popular today is going to be out of favor tomorrow, and they're going to dig it up. Look at the most recent one. The guy was the host of Jeopardy, and he said something about girls' anatomy or something on a podcast 8 years ago, and automatically he's fired from Jeopardy or whatever the story is. I don't even want to know, but the thing is that it's nonsense. Somebody else gets called out. Let's cancel this, whatever. No, I don't have anything. I have been an open book in my career. I've done everything from adult, mature X all the way down to funny comic, religious stuff, instructional stuff, whatever. And I put my name on it. No, pen name, no nom de plume. I don't believe in it. I think that if you write or do artwork, you should be proud of it, even if it's the worst thing you've ever done. You should be proud of it because someone took the chance on hiring you and had faith in you to put your work out. Good enough. So Mac in Trouble is my love letter to the industry. I was very impressionable when I was a kid. I had no father. I used to watch Star Trek and Bonanza and Gunsmoke, and those were the big role models in my life. I loved all of those Bob Hope, Bing Crosby movies, Laurel and Hardy, Martin and Lewis. I loved all of that stuff, Groucho Marx and the Marx Brothers. Bewitched, I Dream a Genie. That was like the stuff of inspiration for me. So when I did Mac in Trouble, it's a throwback to that. And I actually have a trade paperback collecting a lot of their best of adventures, new cover and a new story coming out around the end of the year. And then next year, I'm going to be doing a brand new regular series with them. Part of it's going to be digital and online, and part of it's going to be in print. And we'll be collecting those. And there'll be things like shirts, trading cards, stickers, all to go along with that as well. It's going to be a big thing. And right now I'm working with a producer in the United Kingdom that's with the Bombitos Network. and he has a Roku channel, and they have an Amazon channel and YouTube, and they're making Mac in Trouble into a new film. If you go on YouTube right now, you can look up Mac in Trouble later that day, and there's a 3-minute long promo of them with voice actors and special effects. It's very funny. But the movie is going to be exciting. There's superheroes in it. They're fighting zombies, and it introduces and reintroduces some very well-known characters. So I'm very excited.
And so there's a lot of stuff going on with this, and obviously I am curious where people can pick up some of this stuff, because obviously I've read parts of it, and where can people find Mac in Trouble and everything that's coming out with that?
Well, if you go to drivethroughcomics.com, what I did was because of the virus, because of all that's going on with the quarantines and the shutdowns and everything, I made a big decision. I decided that all of my comics that were for sale, free. So what I did was I turned the whole library over, all of my Mac in Trouble comics, my stuff, my symbol stuff, and I used to also run a comic magazine called Recollection. All of those issues are free on drivethroughcomics.com and indieplanet.com. People can go up and they can
That's
get
a Sam, what's his last name?
Oh, I forgot. It's been so long since I've talked to anybody. Mostly been working, but if you go to drivethroughcomics.com, you can download all that stuff. As for the new books, I tell people, look at my Facebook. I advertise everything that I do. I just recently did voiceover work for the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. I put that up there on my site. Worked on a new trading card set. I put that up there. And this week, this Friday on my Facebook page, I'm going to be doing a contest giving away free artwork to people. So I always tell people I don't have the time to run a website. My Facebook is public. You can just go up there without being friends, and everybody can go up there and chat with me and send stuff back and forth, reply to the posts, etc. It's all up there. Also give away I also give away a lot of free promo cards too. Anybody is interested in the promo cards, I'll sign them and I'll send it to them free. All they have to do is pay postage. I have over 100 different free promo cards. I like interacting with people and the fans and everything. So
Drive Through Comics is Sam Quinton.
Okay.
And he's great, and we're doing something in October together that's going to be really cool on this show, but I can't talk too much about it. And he's right now not doing anything till September 6th because he's quarantining because something with COVID happened. And he's good. He doesn't have it, but obviously when you have kids, well, somebody in your school gets it, and you're an adult.
Got to be careful. Like I said, in response to the virus, what we did was I wasn't going to shows anymore because of my health problem and because of the quarantines, and shows were knocked out. Decided to turn all the books free. So one day they're $5 each, $4 each. The next day they're $0, and they're all up there. It's fan appreciation. There's a lot of companies that do it. I'm not the only one. But I did it. I chose to do it. It's all up there. Same thing with the cards. People send me letters or messages all the time. They go, how much is postage? I say, it's $1. Send me the $1. I'll go ahead and send you a bunch of cards. I usually send them about 5-10 cards, all signed. I have Batman, Power Rangers, popular wrestlers, Mac in Trouble, Symbol. I just sign them and I give them to them for free. Again, the fans made us. I don't believe in nickel and diming.
Well, I'm gonna probably be sending you more than $1 because I definitely want some of those wrestling things.
No, you better send me like a damn $5. That's all I can say. I'm gonna watch for your name in the mail. If I see $1, I see $1, I'm gonna be mad. I'm gonna be like, wow, this is some poor ass 28-year-old kid. Wow.
Hey! I'm cash poor. If I didn't have my sponsor, this show wouldn't be happening in January. So let's not kid ourselves here. Let's not kid ourselves here. I'm beyond cash poor. It's not funny anymore. I have some assets, but I'm like cash poor, and it's not good right now. And I'm hanging on.
Listen, don't tell me this lie. I got to tell you right now. Don't tell me this lie. You're sitting inside the den of your like 20-room mansion right now. I saw out the window those statues and the fountains, the water into the pool. I saw it, and that girl with the bikini walking by with the drinks. There's probably on the opposite side of the camera. There's probably like 30 or 40 people cheering you on. Your posse. I know it. I know. I get it. You're not fooling. You're not fooling me, buddy. After I hang up with you, it's going to be like Rio in there, and you're going to be having like Mardi Gras. I get it.
Exactly. With my two roommates called Mommy and Daddy.
Oh man, you're lucky you're on that side of the hill. That's all I can tell you, man. Because when you're a collector and you're at the beginning of your life, all you can do is see your stuff go up, up, up. When you're on the opposite side of the hill, you're like, oh, I wish I had that still.
I've had enough up and downs, and I'm just grateful for every day that I'm alive.
That's all you can do, brother. That's all you can do, brother.
Every day I get to do this, I'm happy, and it's been a year of hell in a lot of ways. It's been more than a year of hell, and I'm just grateful for what I get to do. But having said that, and before I give you a chance to promote yourself, we have 2 questions, and only 2 questions to ask. And Tony Khan or Vince McMahon?
What's that? You got to say it again. You broke up a little bit, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, so Tony Khan or Vince McMahon?
Vince.
And then Picard or Kirk?
Oh, come on, Kirk. Got to remember my generation. Funny thing is that McMahon is actually a really, really great guy. But when you start working and you're backstage and everything, he's heavy business, and he can grate you the wrong way. When I did work for him, I wrestled one time at Madison Square Garden, and he got right in my face to say something. And I didn't think about it. I really didn't think about it. But I just took it as whatever. It's like being, getting picked at as a manager when you work at a store or something. You take it, you grumble, you move on, you be a better person. It's actually a really nice guy. There's a lot of people behind the scenes that are really nice, but then as soon as the cameras start, they're all jerks, Um, William Shatner is probably one of the nicest guys in the industry. It used to be, when you come to conventions, it was the big 3. It was Adam West, Stan Lee, William Shatner, and everybody wanted them. And then there was like sub-levels. You always see like Jim Steranko and Neil Adams. You always see Alan Bellman. You always see this one and that one, on and on and on. But Adam West, Stan Lee, William Shatner. I remember many years ago, I did something, and I met William Shatner, and then I met him again years later at a show, and we were kidding each other. Now he's in his 90s. He just celebrated his birthday recently, and he's actually a really nice guy. But, business will bring out the attitude that everybody says, that guy's a dick. I don't like that guy. Well, you know what? You don't have to do business with them. You just have to appreciate them.
There's plenty of people I don't like, but I respect what they've done.
Right. I think that's the thing when it comes to all the political stuff and the cancel culture and all the BS that's happening on Twitter. I think that's the thing that people seem to forget. People can like Cosby Show without liking Cosby. People can collect the O.J. Simpson card without liking O.J. Simpson, and 100 other examples. People can appreciate Gina Carano's performance on Mandalorian and maybe like or dislike her statements or the fact that she got fired or whatever. Once you separate things like that, you can be entertained and you don't have to have the opinion, and you'll start going back to the way things were. We didn't cancel people because we didn't like them. We just ignored them. I mean, there's a big difference. And that's the way it was with comics, too. You don't like the way that guy drew the cover? Okay, complain. We still bought the book because we needed the story. We needed the next issue. We needed the next episode of the soap opera. We needed the continuation.
Or if the book started to not do what you wanted to do, you move to a different title.
Right, right. That was the thing. And the funny thing was the fans like to complain. It's human nature. So when a book did bad, they still bought it. Just they complained. Somebody would say, "Oh, I don't read that book anymore. I stopped being funny after 209 or whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, I hung on for about 10 or 12 issues, and then it started getting really good. Oh, okay, maybe I'll start looking at it again."
I mean, look, I go through this where if I read 6 issues of a book and then I'm like, yeah, this 7th issue is not doing it for me, I'll drop the book for a little bit and then I'll come back into it in 10 issues. And that happens, and then I move on to something else, and then I'm like, oh, this is much better. Or even after a first issue, instead of whining about it, what I do is that I drop it after the first issue. I'm like, first or second issue, and I'm like, oh man, I found something else that's better. And I think more people need to do that. But
Stan used to say it was the 3rd issue blues. First issue would come out, they'd always say something like amazing first issue. In the 60s, they used to say, in the same vein as Spider-Man, or do you remember when Fantastic Four came out? Well, this is another hit book, or from the smashing television show hit, whatever. Then the second issue would be a continuation of that story. And the 3rd issue would either wind up the arc or start a new one. And it was 3rd issue blues. So Stan used to say, I think this book is suffering from 3rd issue blues. Take a look at all of the biggest titles and go to the 3rd issue, whether it's the 3rd or the 4th issue, watch what happens. Because look at Avengers, who's been giant, and Captain America came back in the 4th issue because Tales of Suspense and Tales to Astonish were dead. They made the Avengers, and then what happened? Captain America was the 4th issue, and it was a big deal, and on and on and on. And that's what happens. The whole industry is based on 3s. People don't realize it, but the whole industry is based on 3s. Doesn't matter what it is. So if you can get past the 3rd issue blues, you got a charmed life, but you got to keep that quality up.
It's the same thing in podcasting in a lot of ways, where you need to get past about in episode number 10. If you get past episode number 10, you have, I think, a 75 to 80% chance you will make it to episode 100. If you do not get past episode 10, or you're not actively working to episode 10, it goes down to like 3% that you'll pick up your podcast and make it past episode 10 if you just do 5 episodes.
Right. Every industry has that one plateau. You either get to it or you never get to it, whatever it is.
But anyway, we've been talking for a while, and totally cool tangent, which I love it. I love tangents. But I do want to give you an opportunity to self-promote yourself, because obviously we've talked about a bunch of stuff. So where can people find you? Where can people bother you? Where can people actually support you, buy your merch?
I'm very easy. I tell everybody the same thing. You can go to rustygilligan.com, which takes you to Facebook, or you can just go to my Facebook page. Everything I do, I put there. I'm working on a lot of projects behind the scenes right now. I just got done doing a project for Topps. I'm about to start. I'm working on 2 films right now. I just did the voice for a cartoon. I did the voiceover for the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame this morning. On and on and on. Everything is on my page. I'm a pretty simple guy. I don't have a site. I don't have stuff for sale. It's all there. If people want something, I usually say, come to me, come chat with me, come talk to me, on and on and on. At the end of the year, I'm going to open up something a little bit bigger and have it maintained. But for right now, I just don't have the time. I'm actually working on 4 different card sets right now. One of them is my own, 1 cartoon and 1 film. And starting a week and a half from now, I'm going to be working on something else.
And obviously, I think you do most of the stuff on Indiegogo, right?
Yeah, if you go on Indiegogo, you can look up The Earth Trembles, which is the name of my dinosaur trading card set. I also, if you go to my Facebook page and you scroll down a bit, there's also a ton of links to it. I think my banner has it in there too. Like I said, I'm a pretty simple guy. I don't have a page. I just don't have the time to maintain it. If it doesn't have good quality, there's no point in doing it. So I don't have the time to dedicate to it, you know. But you can find all my stuff on Facebook, and I'll probably be doing a portrait of Andrew Davis. I don't know if you ever heard of him. Maybe with holding a pitchfork and wearing horns and having a big red cape. I think that would be kind of cool.
That'd be really funny in a trade.
Oh, wait a second. You're only 28. Maybe a rattle and a sash that says 2021 and Happy New Year. You'd be the Happy New Year baby.
I'll take it. If you're going to draw it, you have to pay for it. I mean, who am I to tell an artist what to draw, right? If you want to draw me getting punched in the face, I'm totally fine with that too.
I have so many pictures of when I was at conventions. Fans used to hit me, kick me, drop stuff on me. That was like all play. So if you go on my Facebook page and you go to my photos, there's a whole album of me being beaten up, blown up, kicked, knocked on the floor. Everybody from Star Wars, Mac. I have a 7-foot tall cosplayer dressed up as Mac in costume. There was a Harley Quinn that handed me a bomb. Somebody was biting me. Wrestlers throwing me around. It was very funny, but that was a big deal for a long time. They all came to me. But see, that's something that's missing is the audience participation, the fun, the, come to me and let's beat me up. Let me bite you for a picture. Let me draw on. I drew a picture of something on a girl's pants one time and on a little boy's jacket at a horror show. People don't have those stories. I think they're fun. I really do. Hey, NSC, was it NSC Live TV saying hi? How you doing, buddy?
And so obviously, I'm on their network right now, and hopefully I behaved. That's all I'm going to say on that. I think I did.
I'll call your mom and dad after the show is over with and tell them that you were good. And don't tell maybe give them a break and don't have them mow lawn this week.
And so obviously I much appreciate that. I don't want to be grounded this week, wrestling's on, but that's not the point. But having said all that, and I've been saying this continuously, one of the things you have to do right now is you have to support indie. And what that means is backing Indiegogo projects, supporting indie content creators. Obviously it's great to say, hey, I support indie comics, but backing a trading card set helps. Pledging, especially if you're interested, because that's what helps to make these projects work. I think the Dinosaur is still open for a week or two more.
Yeah.
And so obviously
I also say to people, there's not a lot of comic book shops around. The one that we had locally closed after a couple of years. The owner's a really nice guy, but he had 2 shops and he closed them both. When I lived in New York, there wasn't one around at all. When I lived in California, the card shop closed and the comic shop nearest was like 40 minutes away. Indiegogo, Kickstarter, Zoop, and a bunch of other crowdfunding platforms are really showing a lot of quality books that you can't find. Here's a great test. Go find 10 Indiegogo or Kickstarter comic books, write them down. Now go to your local comic book store and see if you can find one. Because this is a unexplored dimension that you don't see anymore. This isn't underground like underground comics. These are, I don't like the term independent. I'm sorry, I've always been an advocate for that. I hate the term independent, but I do like the term small press because I feel like that's more appropriate. I'm a proud small press publisher. I only publish every once in a while, but I really appreciate other small press companies. And I also find that supporting these people is great for the industry. If you look at Amazon, Hulu, Netflix, look at all the independent shows that are up there. There's a lot of stuff that's up there that you might not even know was based on a comic book or a graphic novel. I was very surprised to find out some, because I don't read everything. Stuff like Jupiter's Legacy. There's a show, Winona Earp. We were watching one the other day. I can't remember the name of it. It was about an apocalypse. It's based all on graphic novels and stuff. So where do you think these people are getting these brand new ideas from? Hey, part of the Inked family. Yes, Inked is a fantastic agency. I was very supported by them when I was doing my dinosaur set, and I encourage other people to look into them. Fantastic. Kevin, the owner, is a great friend.
And so obviously, even to go off of what you were saying with that, and also what I've been saying is that money's tight. Obviously I've been there. Right now I'm in a little bit of an economic quagmire where I'm in between jobs, and so I
All
know.
right, enough. I'll send you the check. Stop asking. Damn it. God.
So having said that,
Did they cut your allowance off? God.
hey, I didn't mow the lawn this week. Cut me some slack. But having said that, in all seriousness, I get it that money's tight in everybody's world,
Right.
and that
Sure.
obviously I don't want people to go in debt to back a project or put yourself in a financial quagmire.
You shouldn't have to. You should back projects that are worth your money, that are with faithful people, that have good rewards and goals, which is the reason why I make stuff very reasonably priced, and the reason that I give away a lot of things as well. People who have seen me at conventions have gotten free prints and free cards. Like I said, I'm not a store or a warehouse. So once this campaign ended, unclaimed just gets randomly thrown into people's envelopes, or the stuff will be offered for a cheaper price. And then once it's gone, it's gone. The rarity is upheld. We don't print 10,000 if we don't have 10,000 buyers. The rarity is upheld. I just don't.
And so one of the things that I think is important at this point is that obviously following people on social media matters. Sharing things out there, sharing the campaign out there.
But responsibly, because I see a lot of people tagging like 100 people, and they're not even part of the campaign or part of the project. I get that a lot, and I like I told you off camera before we started, had someone get mad because I posted happy birthday, even though it was a copyright line and not a link to sell anything, and got angry at that. Sometimes, people have to do it responsibly. What I did for the dinosaur campaign, the card campaign, I ran contests. I gave away free things. I changed my campaign page every week. I added new features because I don't think it should be you go to the campaign, if you like it or don't like it, you buy or don't buy and you go. I think the thing that's interesting is it shouldn't be one and done. I made it into a magazine. So every time somebody came back, there was more, there was new. We also did 50 digital trading cards that didn't appear in the set. We gave them away for free. We had links to free comic books. We had a free video with professional voice actors. I think that's important.
And one of the things that I always encourage people to do is tweet about it out, because you don't know who's watching on Twitter, and if you just share it or share it on your wall on Facebook, because that doesn't upset anybody, you're not stepping on anybody's toes, and your friends will see it, it'll appear on their news feed, and then you're good to go. Or share it in your Instagram story, which is up for 60 seconds. And so the idea here is that you're not stepping on anybody's toes and nobody's going to be upset with you.
Right.
And so that's what I always encourage. Or, if you know somebody, if my best friend's into dinosaurs, for instance, or Emily So, who has a dinosaur book, maybe you tag her into it because she never saw this before, and chances are she's not going to flip out on me because I know her.
Crowdfunding is the new comic rack. When you were a kid and you walked into 7-Eleven and right to your right was a comic rack, or you walked into a comic book store and there was a quarter bin, or you went to a show and some guy had a bunch of weird stuff from the UK or odd comics variants or whatever, maybe a special signed something or made a deal with you. Those days might be gone, but Indiegogo, Kickstarter, and crowdfunding are the new comic rack. It's the new 50-cent bin. People should be excited at the things that they see. And they should also look at more than one, because the first one might not be of an interest to you, but the second one might. And every time you buy a book, you're supporting the creator. You're not supporting the distributor, because the distributor charges extra to keep the lights on, thousands of comics, and they try to work with the stores to get you in. But a lot of people are at home. It's easier to pay $5 online and get it delivered to you so you can go about your day. I would rather do that. I'm sorry, I hate to say it, my comic store friends, but I hate to say it, but the distributors screwed us. I'm sorry, I know it's very controversial, but Diamond and a few of the other distributors screwed us. And small press and small publishers really need to revolt. And it might have been nice to be in the Diamond catalog, but I'm not giving up 70% of my sales. I don't think that that's fair. I put 100% into my books. I shouldn't get 30% recompense. It's not right. Anyway.
It's a whole big discussion.
That's enough for me riffing and rambling and being...
So on that note, I'm going to give you the final word on anything you would like to add, and obviously you like to go positive. So
I love chicken wings.
I got no response for that. So I think that's
I'm not working on I'm not pushing a project right now. I just finished the dinosaur set, and I have a lot of irons in the fire. I think the best thing to do while Andrew is having a fit over there is go to YouTube and look up Mac in Trouble Later That Day, and you should. It's a 3-minute long. It's a 3-minute long promo. And while he's sucking on helium over there, you might also go to my Facebook page and you can see some of the work that I'm working on. Like I said, Thursday or Friday, I'm going to do a contest to give away some free art. So, which Andrew finds funny, but it's actually a serious contest. But Andrew is Andrew.
You're going to make a trading card of me. It's going to be like a 101. It's going to be the funniest thing on the planet. It's going to be hilarious. And I'm not going to get it, too, which is going to make it even funnier. Whoever gets it, I'll happily have them on my show. That's the perk for the card.
Well, I'll tell you, my friend, I really enjoyed talking to you. It's been a lot of fun.
So on that note, I believe that's a wrap before I have a fit and I get grounded.